Hello and welcome back everyone, we Weeb Online, and today I'm gonna continue the story What If Naruto Was Trained by Minato and Kurama Part 2. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
Sasuke's room. Hospital. He met Uchiha Makoto for the first time while sitting in Sasuke's hospital room. He thought this was the best time to keep his promise to Itachi and try to fix whatever Itachi had done to put Sasuke in the hospital. He didn't get the chance, though. The door to Sasuke's hospital room slammed open just as he was getting up. Uchiha Makoto ran over to her son and looked at Naruto for a moment, but her face showed that she was worried. Sasuke woke up as soon as she grabbed his hand. As soon as Sasuke opened his eyes and saw his mother, he became very scared. "No, you can't be here. You're dead. He killed everyone. He made me watch everyone die over and over." Makoto didn't say anything. She just hugged Sasuke tightly and whispered something in his ear. "It's okay, Sasuke. I'm here. I'm alive. No one managed to kill me, and I'm not going anywhere. Just look at me, don't think about that for now." Naruto stood up and left because he didn't belong in Sasuke's room at that time. He saw Sasuke start to cry in Makoto's arms as he went out. Naruto thought he had nothing to do, so he went to see the Hokage to see if he could find out anything else. When Naruto walked into the tower, he saw a lot more people than usual. He walked up the stairs to get to the old man's office, but he had to avoid people who were moving quickly, mostly Junin. Right before he kicked open the door to the Hokage's office, it opened, and another Junin rushed out. Naruto closed the door to the office and went inside. The old Hokage looked up at him. It looked like he hadn't slept in a week and that the weight of the world was beginning to hurt his back. The old man said, "I'm sorry, Naruto, I'm really busy right now. You'll have to come back in a couple of days." The fact that he called Naruto, Naruto, instead of my boy, showed how serious he was. "Okay, Gigi, I was just wondering what happened to Sasuke. I was visiting him in the hospital and he didn't look hurt, but he wouldn't wake up until this pretty woman that I think was his Ka-san came into the room. Sasuke didn't think she was really there to begin with. He kept saying stuff like, he killed them all, and he made me watch them die over and over." After a little while his Ka-san hugged him and whispered something to him and he started crying. "So I was just wondering what happened." The professor gave Naruto a strange look that he quickly covered up. Kushina sent Makoto a letter that ended with her being knocked out on one of the training grounds. Naruto was also here asking about something he shouldn't know. It seemed like too much of a coincidence to be true. The old Hokage looked at Naruto with a sharp eye and asked, "Why were you at the hospital?" "I heard a Junin, at least I think it could have been a Chunin, as I only saw the flak jacket, say something about Sasuke being hurt and the last Uchiha. So I went to see if he was in the hospital. Where else do you go if you get hurt? When I got there no one would tell me where he was, so I snuck around until I saw a big commotion, and when the people who were making it left, I saw they were standing outside Sasuke's room. Well, I'm glad Sasuke is awake, but The door opened once more. "I'm very busy today, Naruto, and though I am very glad to know Sasuke is awake, you will have to let me get back to work now." Naruto was glad to see that the old man's back didn't seem to be hurting as much. "Okay, Gigi, I'll see you in a couple of days," he said. He decided to tell his parents what happened because he didn't think he would learn anything new for a while. Naruto then went back to his apartment and began to meditate. He quickly fell into a deep sleep and appeared in the mindscape. His parents were ready for him. Kushina spoke first. "So what happened, Naru-chan?" Naruto said, "Itachi killed everyone in his clan, without adding anything else, before he started to think. But it is strange, I was pretty sure he was going to destroy part of his clan, but I never thought he would kill them to the last man save for Sasuke. And yes, Makoto-san too, our plan worked perfectly. But still I didn't think he would kill the children considering how much he seems to love his brother." She asked, "So what happened to Sasuke?" "I'm not quite sure. I know he did something. He would have had to, since he is just now waking up 2 days later. He woke up a little while before I came here, just after Makoto-san came into the room," said Naruto. "It was up to Minato to decide whether to speak or not. When you told us about Itachi's fight with Shisui, you said his eyes looked strange." "How? Were they red with 3 black tomo?" "They were red, but they didn't have 3 tomo. The black looked more like a three-bladed Fuma shuriken. This is what Minato asked in a hurry. Did Itachi say anything when you saw that? Well, not when I saw his eyes, but he did say something before I noticed that. I think it was Mangekyo, Naruto said. Mangekyo Sharingan, Kaleidoscope Copy Wheel Eye. Itachi must have used Tsukiyomi, Moon Reader, on Sasuke. What does Tsukiyomi do to San? It is technically a genjutsu that allows the user to take their victim to a world where they control even time. It is said that someone caught in Tsukiyomi can experience 3 days of time in mere seconds. I said it is a genjutsu, but I don't think it really is, especially after living here. I think it is a technique that sucks the victim into the user's mindscape, though I probably wouldn't if I hadn't lived here like I do. What Tsukiyomi does is almost like what you, and with your permissioness, do in this world. You can even change the rate at which time flows. Minato took a moment to look at Naruto and continued. Now that I think about it, if you ever got permission from the person who was using Tsukiyomi to manipulate the world, it would probably be possible for you to break out considering how much experience you have at manipulating your mindscape. So Itachi used Tsukiyomi on Sasuke, and whatever he did left Sasuke unconscious for 2 days. Wait, now that I think about it, Sasuke was saying, he made me watch everyone die over and over. Do you think Itachi made Sasuke watch their deaths? But what good would that do? Naruto asked in a confused way. Knowing Ida-chan, Kushina thought, he was probably trying to scare Sasuke away from being like their father. Ida-chan was never all that good at understanding people's emotions, at least as a child, and I can't really see that changing much. It is probably a very good thing that you managed to save Makoto. She will probably be able to keep him from possibilities, like becoming a revenge-obsessed brat that would be completely spoiled by the village since he is the last Uchiha. Kushina finished with air quotes. That's good, I hope he gets better soon, Naruto said with a happy look on his face. But knowing Makoto, she probably suspects you and she might confront you about the letter and me, said Kushina. I know Gigi suspects something. I could tell that he thought something was strange when I told him I was visiting Sasuke in the hospital, Naruto said. Now it was Minato's turn to look thoughtful. If they ever do end up confronting you about it, I think you should tell them about us. What? Why? Why would I want to tell them about you? That's not such a bad idea after all, Minato said. You know about shinobi politics. Well, Makoto would be a good ally, and I think the old monkey is already on your side. For that matter, your friends would be good allies as well when they get older. Especially Shikamaru, Choji, and Hinata. They're the heirs to their respective clans and will one day wield a lot of power. Just be careful. Unless Makoto or Sarutobi actually confront you about their suspicions, don't say anything. Okay. I can see your point, especially if that Danzo guy or the civilian council tries something. Good. Remember to be careful with your trust, but also never fear to trust, Kushina said. Now that the serious business is over, we can go back to our normal routine and spend some time being a family. We had better wait until later. I came here by meditating, so I better leave for now and come back when I go to sleep, Naruto said regretfully. Don't worry about it, Naru-chan, we will have plenty of time later. Naruto finished. I'll see you a little later then. He then sat down to meditate and return to the real world. After the Uchiha massacre, the academy was closed for 3 days, but most of the students didn't know why. Sasuke didn't come back until 2 weeks had passed after classes started again, and he wasn't nearly as happy as he had been before. He would sometimes brood and pull back into himself. A few months after the massacre, Sasuke missed 1 day of school and looked worried when he came back the next day. By the end of the day, Naruto was worried about him and decided to ask what was wrong. Hey Sasuke, what's wrong? You didn't show up yesterday, and now you look worried. HN. Hey, haven't I told you not to use any of that one-syllable, HN, crap? It makes you look stupid and doesn't tell anyone anything. Tell me. If you don't, I'll play a joke on you next, and I'll make what happened to Mizuki-sensei and the other teachers look like nothing. I might start by giving you hair that looks like Sakura's. It got even paler for Sasuke. Okay, Ka-san is sick. She threw up this yesterday morning and again this morning. So you're worried about your Ka-san, right? Naruto asked with understanding. Don't act like you know what it's like. For me, she's the only person left in the world. You'll never understand how I feel. I almost yelled, Sasuke said. You're right. I'll never get how you feel. Naruto said, I've never lost a family member. My parents died the day I was born, so I can't understand your loss. But I do understand loneliness. He then trailed off, looking far away and lonely. Sorry, I didn't know that. That's okay. That's what happened. I can't change it now. What is wrong with your Ka-san, though? Angry, Sasuke said, I don't know. Naruto said, let's go check on her then. Sasuke's face lit up a little from this. The Uchiha compound. When they got to the Uchiha compound, Naruto saw that it had been cleaned up so well that he couldn't even tell that something strange had happened. They walked towards Sasuke's house through the empty streets that should have felt haunted but didn't for some reason. As they entered the yard, they saw Uchiha Makoto lying down in the garden. Sasuke yelled, Ka-san, as soon as he saw her. Naruto saw Sasuke run up to Makoto and start to shake her. He knew Sasuke was scared, so he ran up to Sasuke and pulled him off of Makoto. Naruto said in a soothing voice, calm down, Sasuke. Calm down, calm down. Why do you want me to calm down? Yelled back, becoming very angry. Because you won't help her if you freak out, Naruto told Sasuke, cutting him off right away. He then went over to Makoto and checked her pulse. Well, she's still alive, but I don't know what's wrong. Come over here and help me pick her up, he said, and Sasuke yelled. Now, when he saw his shocked face. Where are we going to take her? Sasuke asked when he woke up. Naruto replied, of course, the hospital. He looked at him like he was crazy. We have no idea what's wrong, so where else could we take her? He put one of her arms around her shoulder as he started to pick her up. What are you doing? Get the other side. Makoto was taken to the hospital by being half carried and half dragged by Sasuke and his mother. As Naruto walked into the emergency room, he still seemed to be in charge. Hey, can we get some help here? He asked. A doctor rushed up and asked, what happened to her, after taking a quick look at Naruto. And Sasuke finally spoke up. I don't know. My mom has been sick for 2 days, so my sister and I went to check on her. When we got to my house, she was lying down in the garden. You two took her all the way from the Uchiha district? The doctor praised the two boys, even the demon container. He then told a nurse, you two did a great job getting her here. We'll take it from here. If you need to find me, my name is Kito. After about an hour, they were finally allowed to go into Makoto's room. She was awake and glad to see Sasuke. Sasuke-chan, I'm sorry I seemed to worry you. But don't worry, the doctor who checked me out said I just passed out from too much stress because of my condition, Makoto told Sasuke. Anyway, who is your friend? I heard that you two carried me the whole way here. This is Uzumaki Naruto, Sasuke said, missing Makoto's sharp but friendly look at Naruto. When Sasuke realized what his mother had said, he asked, what condition are you talking about? Sasuke got a big smile from Makoto. It looks like you're going to have a sister. Naruto told Sasuke, see you tomorrow, and left them alone. He then went to the Hokage Tower. The Hokage Tower. Naruto did what he always did and kicked open the door to the Hokage's office. Even 2 months later, the Hokage still looked worn out and tired. Hey Gigi, how are you today? Why? Naruto asked. I'm fine. What about you? Asked the old man. I'm good. So, my boy, what brought you here today? Today I have good news to share with you, Gigi. Naruto almost vibrated with excitement as he spoke. The old Hokage was sad and said, please don't tell me you came to take this hat off my hands, Naruto. Naruto joked with Hiruzen, well, I'll take it if you want to give it to me, but that's not my good news. What's the good news then? I'll tell you if you swear not to tell anyone until the person tells you themselves. Okay. I promise that this won't leave my office. Is that okay? Hiruzen said, losing his cool for the second time. That's okay. Naruto finally stopped playing with the old man and said, Uchiha Makoto is pregnant. She's going to have a girl. The pipe broke off of Hiruzen's mouth. Are you sure? How did you learn? Yes, I am. His Ka-san had been sick for 2 days, which made Sasuke worry about her. When we went to see her, she was lying down in the garden, so we took her to the hospital. The doctors checked her out, and when we were able to see her again, she told us she had passed out because her condition was making her too stressed. She then told me she was having a girl. That does sound like good news. Naruto, thank you for that. I wish I could find a way to get rid of all this paper. But that's simple, right? No, as much as I would just like to burn it and scatter the ashes to the four winds, I have to do it to keep the village running, the old Hokage said. I didn't mean that. I meant that I know a quick way for you to finish your work. Naruto could barely see the old Hokage as he quickly got up from his seat and knelt in front of him. Do you really know a way I could finish my work faster? What is it? Please teach it to me, I'll do anything. Naruto was getting sweaty because he realized that this man was the leader of the village and would one day be his commander. Well, I was going to string you along to see what you would do for it, but seeing this, I'll just take an IOU, he said sarcastically. His shock temporarily tore away his act of stupidity, but when he actually told the old man, his mind was racing with all the possibilities. 2 words. The old Hokage held his breath while he waited. Kage Bunshin. Hiruzen slowly stood up and sat down in his chair. He opened the top right drawer of his desk and took out an envelope. He quickly brought chakra to his eyes and saw that it said, to Hiruzen, until you figure out the secret to paperwork, Jiraiya. When the Hokage opened the envelope, the bullseye was about to be put on his desk when Naruto quickly grabbed it and asked, forehead here, what is this for? Did you change the color shift seal? He asked as he gave it back to the old Hokage. He said, this, as he put it on his desk and hit the bullseye with his head. Naruto quickly grabbed the camera he was ready to use on Shikamaru and began taking pictures of him. If you looked at those pictures in order, you would see the Kami no Shinobi hitting his head on a desk full of papers while the words, I am an idiot, appeared in bright colors on his forehead. Unlike the attack he used on the teachers, this attack would only change this one thing, but it would happen every 15 minutes for 2 weeks. The best part was that his godfather, whom he had never met, would be blamed because he had given the envelope to his teacher as a seal master. When he ran out of pictures, he put the camera away and yelled, see you later, Gigi, over his shoulder as he left the office. Thoughts, Ka-chan, I have good news. He said this as soon as he found his mother. What is it, Naru-chan? As Naruto's excitement spread to Kushina, she asked. A girl is going to be born to Makoto-san. What's wrong with Miko-chan? I really wish I could see her. You might not be able to see her, but if she ever asks me about the letter I could pass a message on for you. Would you do that? Tell her, no matter how painful it is, I'm glad you were here to experience it again, Kushina asked as she gave Naruto a big hug. Okay Ka-chan, I will. Sasuke started to isolate himself from everyone but his family over the next year. Especially after his baby sister, Natsumi, was born. Having had enough, Naruto decided to try and to cheer Sasuke up and pull him out of the shell he was creating. Naruto asked him along with Shikamaru, Choji, Sakura, Hinata, and Shino, who Naruto had become friends in the past year. He was nice, very quiet and a little creepy sometimes, but nice, if they would like to train with him. They finally agreed, though it probably wasn't just his persuasive ability that convinced them to go. Sasuke had started training insanely hard, like a person possessed, especially after his sister was born. Shikamaru grumbled about it being troublesome, but he guessed he would go. He had to agree to have another ramen eating contest with Choji to get him. Hinata and Sakura were easy. Hinata just plain agreed so she could have fun with friends and do a little training away from her family. Sakura along with her friend Ino was starting to develop a crush on Sasuke, with her mother, who was a member of the civilian council, pushing her in that direction. It wasn't too bad because her mother was also telling her that she should stay from the brat, Naruto, as he was dangerous, and who had been her friend for a long time, so she finally just decided to make her own mind. She had also been picking up some fangirlish tendencies. Dieting. Worrying more about her appearance than training, etc. They did what he told them to do in his training area, where no one could see. Naruto, what kind of training are we going to do here? Sasuke asked. First, let me ask you a question. What types of chakra exercises have you learned? Has anyone learned anything besides how to concentrate on the leaf? Naruto asked all of them. Anyo I have, Hinata stuttered in a shy voice. Hinata, you can take off the mask if you want to, Naruto said in her ear. You will be much better off when you decide to show who you are if you learn to work without it as a shield sometimes. That, and I don't think anyone here would say anything about it. If you do, I'll take mine off. She thought for a moment, then said, "Okay Naruto, I'll do that when I'm just with these people." The other people in the group stopped making noise. Shikamaru stopped looking lazy, Sasuke looked more closely at Hinata, and Choji even stopped eating. Sakura finally spoke up. Did Hinata just stop stuttering? The fact that she did it is annoying. Why do you keep doing that? I was told many years ago that lying is one of the best things a shinobi can do. You know how I usually act. Would you take me seriously in a fight if you saw me that way? Why? Hinata asked. Okay. I thought that was an interesting way to do it, Shino said. I guess your stupidity is the same, Naruto? Very perceptive, I am impressed, Naruto said, taking off his stupidity mask. Enough shocking news. How about the lessons? Sasuke almost made a demand. Okay. Does anyone know of any exercises for chakra control besides focusing on leaves? I do know a couple, but they are all for the Juken and won't do other people much good, said Hinata. Nobody? Now I'll teach you one that I got from reading a book, he told his friends. It's called the tree climbing exercise. We already know how to climb trees, so why do we need to learn that? Sasuke asked in a nearly angry tone. Well, can you do it this way? Naruto asked as he climbed a nearby tree and hung from the toes of his feet. When Sakura stood up, she looked shocked and asked, "How are you doing that?" As I already said, this is an exercise for chakra control. It's supposed to help build up your chakras and make them easier to control. You make chakra flow to your feet and use it to stick to the tree. To keep track of your progress, the book told you to get off to a fast start. But I have a better idea. Connect with your chakra while lying down with your feet up against a tree trunk. As you pull one foot off the tree at a time, add more and more chakra until you can't do it anymore. Then let go of that foot and do it with the other. This tells you how much chakra it needs to stick. When you're ready, start climbing the tree. Remember that you'll have to let go of one foot every time you want to take a step. Stop when you get too tired. This is an exercise to build chakra, and if you run out, you could hurt yourself. This is especially true for Hinata and Sakura. You two will probably be able to finish this exercise faster, but not for as long. Tree climbing is only really fun when you can stay on a tree for more than an hour without getting tired. If you did it the way the book said to, you would either not stick at all or take off from the tree by adding too little or too much chakra. Shikamaru, don't forget that you can look at the clouds when you do it my way. But if you wait for a teacher to make you do it, they probably won't let you. Everyone went to a different tree, laid on their back, and started sticking their feet to it. About 20 minutes after everyone else started, Sakura started taking slow, careful steps up the trunk of her tree. She made it to the third branch, which was about 15 feet above the ground, before she had to stop. She hopped down to the first branch and walked down to the ground before she felt so tired she passed out. When she caught her breath, she turned to Sasuke. Sasuke, did you see that? How did I do? After giving her a mean look, Sasuke went back and tried again. Good job, Sakura. You must have very good chakra control to have learned it so quickly. If you build up your reserves, I bet you could be a great Iryo nin, medical ninja, or genjutsu mistress. Naruto asked with a thoughtful look, can you come here for a minute, Sakura? Both of those fields require almost perfect control, which is something that not many people can ever claim. Sure Naruto, Sakura replied, not sure what to say. Before stopping, they walked about 20 meters away from where the others were practicing. Sakura, why do you want to be a shinobi? Wait to answer that question. Think about it first. Then you can decide if you want to tell me or not. Anyway, if you're sure you like Sasuke, I have some advice for you. She asked with doubt, really, you have advice for me? To get Sasuke to like you, you have to earn his respect first. He can't like someone he doesn't respect. In what ways does he value things? Naruto asked in a leading way. It was not what he really asked, so she said, no, usually she would say that he likes thin girls with long hair. Sasuke likes strong people. Strength to defend oneself, strength to defend others, and strength to do what needs to be done. Naruto paused to let her take that in. Do you know his mother or know of her? No, she said again. People like people who are a lot like their parents, not because they look alike, but because they have similar traits. His mom is a Junin. She could be tried again, but she is a Junin. So work hard at your training if you want him to like you. What do you mean? I've heard you and your friends talk about diets and hair and body wash all the time. To be good at kunoichi, you need to put on muscle, which means you need to eat well and then work off the extra calories. Your body would have a hard time making energy if you went on a diet, and even though you'd be skinny, it would only be skin and bones. Naruto finished. You don't have to do anything now, but think about what I said. He then walked back toward the clearing, leaving Sakura standing still. When he got back to the clearing, he saw Hinata start to climb the tree trunk. Shikamaru looked like he was about to do the same, but Choji and Sasuke looked like they still had a ways to go, so he went over to them. "How are things going between you two?" he asked as he drew close to them. "I didn't think this would be this hard," Choji said. "Only, shut it, Naruto," came out of Sasuke's mouth. "Oh, don't worry about it. You two have more than everyone else, which makes it harder to control. Plus, it took me almost a week to finish the first draft," Naruto said, not mentioning that he was only 4 years old at the time. "What about Sakura?" Sasuke asked. "Due to the fact that she has very little chakra left, that girl is one of the few who has perfect control. She would probably make a great Iryo Nin." "Okay, you two, keep going. Shika is not going to sleep, I promise." He got up and walked over to Shikamaru. "Hey Shika, you look like you're almost there. What do you think?" "None other than troublesome," did Shikamaru say. "I guess so, but if you do this and your reserves grow, you can stay in one place longer during battle before you actually have to move or use your shadow techniques longer." "I guess so, but it is still troublesome." Naruto told Shino, "I'm going to see you now." He then walked over to Shino. Just like Shikamaru, Shino was about to write it down when they started to talk. "Hey Shino, how are you? That was great. Say, thank you, to Naruto." "Thank you. I can tell you're almost there." "Yes," Shino said in his usual short way. "Do you need help?" "Why?" Naruto asked. "No, I need to thank you though." "Thank you. Why do you want to thank me?" "For 2 reasons. By the time we graduate, I will have a lot more chakra because I know this technique now. I will probably be able to support another hive of Kakaichu. The second comes from the first. You have made it much more likely that I will survive when it's time to go into the field. I'm glad I helped you stay alive. Keep going, I'm going to see Hinata." He got up again and went to the last person in their group. Hinata had just figured out the trick and was slowly walking up the tree, so Naruto followed her. She got higher than Sakura did before she had to stop and rest. When she did, she sat down on a branch and Naruto joined her. "Good job Hinata." "What did Hinata say?" "Thank you. How does it feel to have finished a task that no one in your clan would have thought you could do?" Naruto asked in a sarcastic tone. "I thought you said that it would only be completed after you could do it for an hour straight." "True, but you get the idea. Very good. I never really got to ask you how you were doing with your clan's Juken style. I have been meaning to ask for a long time," Naruto said. "Not very good. That's what my trainers in our style say, at least. They're not quite wrong, but they're also not quite right. I started to change the Juken to fit my body better after you told me to." Hinata replied, "That's going great, if slowly. That's especially true since my trainer doesn't trust me to learn the more advanced katas. Doesn't your clan have records where you can look for the katas or whatever they were based on? Especially the unique moves that are part of Juken. I'll have to look. Okay, can you get back down? I'm going to rest a few more minutes before I go back down." Naruto turned around and walked back to the ground. "Okay, I'll see you back there," he said. Before they had to leave for home, Sakura had come back and practiced again. Hinata had made it to the ground, and Shikamaru had gone up, but not as far as the others because he wasn't quite good at his technique yet. Sasuke and Choji hadn't made it more than 5 feet off the ground, but they still had the most energy even though they had gone the longest. Naruto chose to say goodbye to everyone before they went their separate ways. "Remember to practice by yourself," he said. "You can move on to the next step when you can climb trees for an hour straight without stopping. To do that, you need to use what you learned in this exercise to stand on water. To make the water thick enough to stand on, you have to keep letting go of chakra. His friends almost all said, "Thank you." At the same time, Shikamaru, who was too lazy to say anything, just said, "Thank you. I'm so glad they're my friends. Without them, I'd be very lonely, almost as lonely as I was before I met Kichi Naruto." Then he had an idea that he hadn't thought of before. What about the Kyuubi? What about the Kyuubi? Wait, that's a title. Then what is its name? Now that I think about it, I only know that it was sealed in Ka-chan before me and Uzumaki Mito before her. I'll have to think about this. In his thoughts, Naruto almost missed the chance to finally talk to Sasuke alone. But Sakura finally broke away from him and went her own way, leaving Sasuke by himself. In a hurry to catch up, Naruto called out to him, "Hey Sasuke, wait up. I have something to talk to you about." Naruto caught up to Sasuke and asked, "What is it?" His voice was a little clipped as he asked, "I just wanted to ask you something. What is it already? Are you aware that this is not how you will be able to protect your family?" "What do you mean by that? Are you saying I'm weak?" Sasuke asked, grabbing him by the shirt. Naruto told her, "Not at all. You are already much stronger than most people your age, and you have more chakra than anyone else in our class. What I meant was that you are pushing everyone away. Why would a group of nuke nin get into your compound? What could you do by yourself? What if your mom gets hurt? No matter what, you will never be able to become an Iryo nin like Sakura and Hinata did. I want you to understand that what you are doing leaves you open to harm and alone. It can also put your family at risk. Do you want that?" But that is what he said to do. Who said that? Itachi. What did he say? Before he spoke in a low voice, Sasuke looked like he was ready to kill. He said, "Foolish little brother, if you want to kill me, hate me, detest me, still manage to stay alive in an ugly way. Run, and hold on to life. Come to me when your eyes match mine." Ha 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 ha. Wow, this is nice. Your whole clan was killed by Itachi, and you were just doing what he says. People say you're a genius, but that's one of the silliest things I've ever heard. When he laughed, Sasuke's killing intent was strong enough to scare Naruto, but when he was done tearing into him, Sasuke just looked lost. After that, what should I do? Do not think about him? Let him kill other people on his own? Yells Sasuke. No, get stronger, but do it for the right reasons. Get strong enough to beat him. You are on a path that would have turned you into a worse monster than Itachi ever could be. You could become the best Uchiha ever if you start going in the right direction. He wants one that is not only powerful but also strong so that he can protect everyone he cares about. Being strong enough to keep Mikoto-san and Natsumi-chan safe. You need to decide now. Which way are you going to go? Naruto said this as he turned away, leaving Uchiha Sasuke alone and shocked. The Uchiha compound. The first time Sasuke felt that the Uchiha compound was haunted was when he got there. He wanted to get away from the scary feeling and ran to his home. When he got home, his mother was waiting for him with his sister in her arms. Seeing what was left of his family made him feel better. He decided to just ask, "Ka-san, have I been doing what Ni-san wanted?" to get his worries out of the way. "Sasuke, what do you mean?" I asked Mikoto. Just before he used that technique, Sasuke said with a shiver, "Ni-san told me, foolish little brother, want to kill me, hate me, detest me, still manage to stay alive in an ugly way. Run, and hold on to life. Come to me when your eyes match mine." Before I answer, tell me what brought this on. I went to train with Naruto and a few friends. Naruto taught us how to do the tree climbing exercise. He told me on the way back that I wouldn't be able to protect my family the way I am now and that isolating myself wouldn't help because I can't do everything. Then he told me I had two choices. The one I was on would turn me into a monster that would make Ni-san look bad, but I could still choose the other one. He told me I could become the strongest Uchiha of all time, not the most powerful, but the strongest, so I could protect everyone I care about. That made me think a lot. A soft smile spread across Mikoto's face. Your friend is smarter than his years. He was right. You had already begun to walk that path of death and destruction. If you changed into someone that even Itachi wouldn't like, I was afraid that you would leave me and your sister until the day you came to destroy everything you used to value. Ka-san, I think I'd like to take that second path, Sasuke said in a firm voice. Mikoto replied, I've never been happier to hear anything. Why don't you have your friend over for dinner sometime? And maybe I'll finally be able to figure this matter out. 3 days later, Naruto and Sasuke were walking from the academy to Sasuke's house because Naruto was invited to dinner. As they walked by the garden, they were glad not to see anyone lying on the ground. Sasuke called out, "Ka-san, we're home." Makoto called out from another room, "Come into the kitchen. We're having dinner here tonight." When they went into the kitchen, Makoto was feeding Natsumi with her back to them. "Start eating, you two. I'll be back in a minute," she said. The two of them sat down and did what Makoto told them to do. She quickly came over, put her daughter in a crib next to the table, and joined the meal. Everyone ate well and was done quickly before the table was cleared. "Sasuke-chan, could you do the dishes and watch Natsumi for a few minutes while I talk to your friend in the study?" Makoto asked, pulling a small laugh from Naruto. "Okay, Ka-san," Sasuke said. "Would you please come with me, Naruto-san?" Naruto pointed in front of him. "Lead the way." Soon, they were in a small office. Makoto pointed to a seat in front of the desk, and she sat behind it. Naruto stood up from his chair because his feet were now on the ground when he saw her take an envelope from one of the drawers. He held out his hand for her to wait. As soon as he put his foot on the ground, the walls turned blue and then went back to normal. Makoto asked in a demanding tone, "What was that?" The young blonde girl said, "I just put up a privacy wall." Makoto looked at that with wide eyes. "That is a very advanced move, and you did it without any practice," she said, shaking her head. "What did you want to talk about?" Makoto picked up the envelope again and said, "First, let me thank you for what you said to Sasuke. You did something in a few minutes that I have been trying for the last year. You don't have to thank me for that. I would do the same for any of my friends if they needed it." The woman held up the letter and asked, "I see. Now to the real question. Did you give me this letter?" "I was starting to wonder if you would ever ask me about that." He got up and changed into the same civilian he had been the night of the massacre. Then he changed back and sat down again. "Yes, I gave you that letter. For that matter, I am the one who took you to Training Ground 23, the one who knocked you out, and the one who hid you." Makoto was shocked when the boy in front of her said just a few words. "But why did you do that?" "Mind you, I don't mind that you did, but why?" "For two reasons. First, Itachi asked me to watch out for Sasuke, and you were the best person to do that. Second, he told me to tell you, no matter how painful it is, I'm glad you are here to experience it again." When Makoto heard that, her eyes went as big as saucers. She felt so much worse than she had before. "Who told you that?" she asked, not believing what she thought until she saw proof. Naruto answered with a smile, "Ka-chan, of course. How is that possible? She is no longer alive. She is and isn't. When the Kyuubi was sealed, my dad locked up a cage bunchen of my mom and himself in my mind. They were asleep in a way that didn't use any chakra until I used my own chakra to help them. When I was 4, my mom woke up. We made a plan to get you out when we found out what was going to happen because my Ka-chan asked me to save you. You know what happened with that. Now tell me why you did that." "It was the right thing to do, but also I dreamed to one day become Hokage and I will need the clans behind me to fulfill that dream," said Naruto. His eyes got even bigger. "Kushina and Minato, he looks a lot like you too." After a year, the year after Naruto taught his friends how to climb trees, they had all come a long way. They were all good at the technique and had moved on to water walking. Sakura took the longest to build up the energy she needed to climb trees for an hour straight. He thought about giving all of his friends resistance seals but decided not to for now. Instead, he would have given them gravity seals, but he couldn't yet make the much more complicated limit sensory gravity seal that he had, and it would be dangerous for them without his healing factor. Hinata found records that talked about how Juken evolved, including information on the style that was its original form. She was quickly adapting her clan's style, but she didn't want to limit herself to Juken like most of her family did. Instead, she chose to learn some water techniques and some medical techniques, since she had always thought more like a healer than a destroyer. She hadn't started learning any jutsu yet, but she had decided to master the basics and wait until she became a genin before starting to learn the real thing. She had also started making medical creams, but she wasn't very good yet. She had also mastered water walking. To balance out his clan's bug-based techniques, Shino had started to study taijutsu more seriously. He was almost good at water walking, but he had to wait until he was older to get another hive because he had to be able to balance them all, which took a lot of mental strength. At the rate he was improving, he would have a lot more mental strength than was needed for a second hive by the time he graduated. He might even have enough to do elemental jutsu, which isn't common in the Aburame clan. When it came to chakra control, Choji was about where Shino was, but it was enough of a difference. Because he had better control and bigger reserves, he lost less body fat while training in his clan's techniques and could keep up his Baika no Jutsu, multi-size technique, for a lot longer. This meant that he was getting better at the jutsu and taijutsu that used clan techniques. He surprised his father by working out more than he was supposed to. He was getting better at the water walking exercise, but he still didn't have enough chakra. When his father saw how far he had come in his training, he let him learn Kagemane no Jutsu, his clan's first shadow manipulation technique, almost a year before it was usually done by Nara children. He still spent most of his time watching clouds and playing strategy games with his father. Sakura had probably come the farthest, but she also started with the least. A few weeks after her first training session, she took Naruto's advice and stopped being a fangirl and started training seriously. She had mastered the tree climbing exercise and could water walk for about 10 minutes at a time. As Naruto had guessed, she had almost perfect chakra control and decided to study medicine and a bit of genjutsu. She had a great memory and was reading medical texts to make the most of it. He had finished tree climbing and water walking, and even though it took him the longest to learn, he was the first person to master water walking. Since he had more chakra, he worked on perfecting the kaiden. Gokakyu no Jutsu, fire release, great fireball technique, and learned the kaiden. Hosenka no Jutsu, fire release, mystical phoenix flower technique, from his clan's archive. He was also practicing his taijutsu to try to get better. Naruto had both the greatest success and found the greatest pitfall. He could now create just over 300 kage bunshin at a time, and he abused them to maintain his chakra control. He also had a few working on his elemental manipulation training. When it came to wind and water manipulation, he was doing very well. He was almost able to cut a fist-size rock with wind chakra, and while he was able to levitate the water, he couldn't maintain the sphere shape. Earth training wasn't going so well, though he was finally able to crumble a leaf to dust with his chakra. He was having a hard time creating fist-sized stones in his hand with earth chakra. His greatest disappointment came when he finally gave up on genjutsu and medical jutsu. Considering his regimen for chakra control training, he definitely had the control necessary to use them. When he tried to create medical chakra, he finally found out why. When Kyuubi's chakra mixed with his, it made his chakra more chaotic and it disrupted any genjutsu he tried to use, and whenever he tried to make medical jutsu, the chakra turned brown instead of light green. The only remotely medical techniques he could perform were the diagnostic jutsu and chakura no mesu, chakra scalpel. Though the latter shows up as a purplish blue color and is probably a far more dangerous weapon than the normal version. He had completed his father's chakra control exercises, the second one spinning his chakra like the first but to blow up a rubber ball, obviously meant to work on concentrating chakra at a single point and release large amounts of chakra at once, and studied the entire intermediate Fuinjutsu series with his parents. Unfortunately, he had hit a plateau on his physical conditioning until he grew a bit, but he had reached level 7 of the resistance seal, which didn't suffer the same plateau. Naruto had been getting ready for this day ever since he redeemed Sasuke and realized he didn't know much about the Kyuubi. He had his parents give him more and more killing intent until they had made as much as they could. He told them what he was planning, and while they didn't agree with it, they got it. Thoughts like he always did, he went into the mindscape, but this time he went in the opposite direction, into the sewer. This walk seemed to take hours, but that could have been because he was walking down a damp, muddy sewer full of sewage that would have reached his waist if he didn't know how to water walk. As he walked, he noticed that there were several pipes running through the whole tunnel. Some were smaller and glowing a light blue color, while others were bigger and glowing an angry red color. Naruto kept going down the tunnel that never changed until he noticed that the red was getting brighter. Suddenly, he was in a huge open space with a cage so big that he couldn't see the top or the far edge. The gate to the cage was locked with a small piece of paper that had the kanji character for seal written on it. A low, rude voice said, "So my container graces me with his presence. Come a little closer so I can kill you, little ninja." Human. Naruto jumped back, but not before being hit by a huge, sharp claw that would have gutted him. "A little small, aren't you, Ninjin?" the Kyuubi said when it realized it had missed. "I feel pretty small. I'm only 9 years old after all." "What are you? What is it?" Naruto asked, deciding to cut to the chase and not be scared. The Kyuubi roared, "Whoami? I am the mighty Kyuu," but Naruto cut it off. "But Kyuubi no Kitsune is a title, right? Would you rather be called Nine-Tailed Fox?" "Interesting, someone with the nerve to talk back to me," the Kyuubi said. Suddenly, the hall was filled with killing intent that was hundreds of times stronger than his parents. Naruto got to his feet slowly and struggled to breathe. "I see why the villagers are afraid of you if just being around you can make me feel that way," he said, finally able to calm down. It went away just as quickly as it had come. "I am impressed. Not many beings could stand with my presence that thick in the air, let alone talk back to me. It would be hard for even Ichibi no Shukaku, one-tailed Shukaku, to do what you did, child," the Kyuubi said as it finally came into view. "It is lonely, really lonely. It's probably in a lot worse shape than I thought. But there's something else there, too. It's not just a desire for freedom. I wonder what it is. Will you tell me your name, or do you want me to always call you Nine-Tails?" "I guess not. All right, I'll see you again," Naruto said as he left. Naruto stopped turning and said, "Fine. My name is Kurama." A man named Naruto said, "Nice to meet you, Kurama. My name is Uzumaki Naruto." As soon as Kurama heard his name, his killing intent came back, but Naruto didn't let it hurt him. Kurama laughed and said, "Another Uzumaki? Well, at least this one isn't as bad as the last two." "What do you mean?" "Why?" Naruto asked. "In my last two containers, things were a lot worse. I was locked up in a world of pure white, and the only thing I had was a small moon that I was tied to. I was held back by having stakes through all of my tails, paws, and chest. Then, just to be safe, chains were connecting me to the small moon. I can see something besides white here, even if it's not much." "That's way too much. That sounds really painful," Naruto said with some thought. "What would you want to see if you could only see one thing?" "The outside world. I'm afraid I can't let you go, but I'm surprised you want to be outside after hearing how you were controlled the last time you were unsealed. But maybe I can fix this place. Are you limited to a certain size or shape?" "No, I can get any size smaller than this. This is my natural size. But I'm a kitsune and I have to stay that way." "That might work, but let's try this first," Naruto said as he closed his eyes and sat down. Suddenly, everything turned white. Kurama began to growl, but Naruto didn't move. After a few minutes, the white began to ripple, and an exact copy of Konoha and the area around it that Naruto knew appeared, except that Naruto was standing next to a huge cage on top of the fort's head. "That was cool, kid. It's even cooler that I can see animals in the woods. Where is this?" "This is how things are in the real world," Naruto told Kurama. "I made it by connecting my memories of the area around Konoha to this part of my mindscape. If it gets destroyed, it will grow back, and the animals will show up again after a while. This is nicer than my last two jails," Kurama said as he watched Naruto trip and fall. "Kid, are you okay?" "Yes, I'll be okay. I just need to rest now. That was tough. I'll be back after taking a break." Naruto then stumbled down to the Hokage Tower, which was where the entrance to this part of the mindscape was. He left the mindscape right away to rest his tired mind, not even stopping to see his parents before he left. The next day, in order to get past the walls of Konoha, Naruto changed into a small bird. He went to a quiet clearing and changed and made as many cage bunshin as he could. They would last for 2 days. When he was done with his research last night, he realized that that part of his mind could be very helpful to him. It's almost an exact copy of the real world, so if he added to it by going to more places, he would have a perfect map of all the places he had been. Even though it would only be a memory of those places, the map he made would be much better than looking at a paper map because most of the places wouldn't change much. He would have to think about it. He might be able to project in the real world. When Naruto woke up, he saw that about 100 clones were gathered around him. 10 of you transform into birds and map out the area by flying in an expanding spiral around Konoha. I want to have a really good idea what it looks like from the sky. 10 of you do the same from the ground so we know Konoha from above and below. 15 go in each of the cardinal directions. Spread out and cover as much ground as possible. The other 20 turn into birds and do the same thing. Go. Naruto told his clones to disappear in all directions. This will tell me a lot, but I'm curious if Jiraiya sends data to Gigi with the toads. Besides, he is Konoha's spy master. Is it possible for them to let me know when he finally decides to come back to the village? It would be smart to find out. So he could find out, Naruto wiped some blood off of his summoning tattoo and focused on Gamakichi for long enough. Yo bro, how's it going? I haven't seen you for a while. Hey Kichi, I've missed you. How have you been doing lately? I'm good, but why haven't you called me lately? Because going to the academy takes so much time. I've been really busy trying to keep up with my training. Sorry, Naruto said. He remembered the Pocky he brought for dessert with his lunch and held it out to Gamakichi. Here Kichi, want some? With a handful of the chocolate-covered pretzels in his hand, Gamakichi said, Thanks, man. You know I love this stuff. I know. Someone I think of kind of like a big brother gave me my first box. Lightning Country, Kaminari no Kuni, is where it is. As the shorter of the two men with black cloaks and red clouds on them walked down the street, he sneezed. Are you okay, Itachi? Asked the taller one whose skin was a little blue and whose face had lines that looked like gills. He grunts, HN, and pulls out a pochi stick from his robe. He starts to eat it while fighting the urge to stomp his fist. Naruto and Gamakichi were there. Amano asked, So what's up? I met the Kyuubi a few days ago, Naruto said. He's not nearly as bad as I was expecting or should have expected. I mean, seriously, can you imagine what it would be like to live in a cage a meter deep in sewage for 9 years? Gamakichi gasped. What is that like? Naruto asked. Gamakichi and Naruto both shut their eyes and said, that wouldn't be much fun. Anyway, after talking to him for a while I realized how much he hated it. His name is Kurama, by the way. Let's call him that so we don't have to worry about being overheard or have our lips read. Gigi has that crystal ball of his after all. Anyway, I changed the part of the mindscape he was locked up in to match my memory of the places I've been. Gamakichi was shocked and said, Really? That's cool. I didn't know you could do that. Naruto laughed. Neither did I until I did it. After I explored it I realized that it matches my memory perfectly, but as a relatively small area, just Konoha actually. When I realized that it matches my memory I came out here and made a bunch of shadow clones to explore a bigger area to add to the area in my mind. Then just a few minutes ago it occurred to me that I might be able to use it as a map eventually. I just have to figure out a way to project it in the real world first, and I realized just how valuable information could be. Then there is the fact that my godfather is Konoha's spy master. So I was wondering, does Jiraiya send information through you guys? Now that I think about it, I heard from a couple of the others that they sometimes deliver messages to the old man for him. That is probably information from his spy network. Gamakichi said after thought. Perfect. Would you keep your ears open and tell me if you hear anything that sounds like it might help me out? Sure. That won't be hard. Naruto said. Thanks, Kichi, but then he looked at Kichi with a sly grin. One more thing, do you have any way of telling if he is coming back to the village or entering Konoha or something like that? Kichi didn't miss the look in his eyes and asked, Sure, why? There was an evil smirk on Naruto's face that went along with his evil laugh. I was just thinking about all the jokes I could play on him when he gets back. Mom said he is a huge pervert after all. He thought to himself, Jiraiya is so screwed. Okay, I'll tell you when he comes into Konoha next. He thanked Kichi. Thanks. I have to go now. See you next time. As he stood up to leave the clearing. Thoughts. As Naruto ran up to his parents, he noticed how happy they were to see him. But now that he thought about it, it made sense that they were worried about him. He had gone to meet Kurama a few days ago and hadn't been back since. He had spent a few days exploring the changed part of the mindscape. It made Kushina feel better to say, we were so worried about you, Naru-chan. When you didn't come back, we were really scared for you. Naruto finally broke down and said, I'm sorry I made you feel bad, but could you stop calling me, Naru-chan? It makes me feel like a baby." She laughed and said, "That will never happen." His face turned serious for a second, and he said, "The Kyuubi wasn't nearly as bad as I feared." "What the heck happened, Naruto?" he asked Minato. "He tried to kill me the first time I saw him, and I don't blame him. If I had been locked up in a cage in the middle of a huge sewer and had to lay in sewage a meter deep for 9 years, I would have done the same thing." It tried to introduce itself as the mighty Kyuubi no Kitsune at first, but I stopped it and told it to give me his name instead. He laughed when I talked back and filled the room with so much information that it made both of yours look like nothing. He was amazed that I was able to talk back to him because the Aikibi couldn't even do that when he was using so much killing intent. Afterward, he called me child instead of ninjin, which is when he started to enjoy being around me more. Then he said his name was Kurama, and when I said I was an Uzumaki, his desire to kill came back for a second. He hates Yuka-chan so much that he thinks I'm better than his last 2 eggs. I can't really blame him after hearing about how he was held back. Then I asked him what he would choose to see. He said he wanted to see the outside world right away, without giving it a second thought. After hearing what he said, I changed the sewer to look like Konoha, complete with animals. His cage is now on top of your head. He was really impressed, and he began calling me kid. But I think what really impressed him was when I told him it was a real copy of the outside world made from my memories of places I've been. After that, I started to stumble a bit. Changing my mental landscape that way was one of the hardest things I had ever done. Kurama called me kid and asked if I was okay. He was really worried about me. Kushina looked at Kurama's actions and said, "Unless I'm very wrong, the fact that he called you kid is an amazing step. I see you noticed that as the conversation went on he called you more and more familiar things. The fact that he called you kid, a word usually used for baby foxes, means that he likes you and might even think of you as someone he doesn't want to lose," Kushina added. "But time will tell if I'm right." "Yes, I thought that too. Anyway, Kichi and I were talking about it today, and I had a great idea. Remember how I said that my memories were used to make the new landscape in Kurama's part of the mindscape?" Minato said, "Of course. Well, I haven't been back since then because I was looking into it. Really, it's an exact copy of the real world. It has some things I forgot about. So right before, I called up about 100 clones, which was the most I could make and still make them last for 2 days. I sent them in all different directions, with 1/3 turning into birds to explore from above and the others exploring from below. I will add the new land to the mindscape once I get their memories. Let's talk about the idea. Chu-san, I need your help to make it work. What I want to do is use one of those really big scrolls to draw a map of the land in my mind. I will have a map that shows everywhere I or one of my clones has been because every new place I go is added to it. I thought it would be very helpful to be able to quickly get to a map that shows all of that information. I can see how that would be helpful. That's a great idea. In what way did you plan to do it? It was my intention to use a modified projection seal, but I know I can't do a mindscape projection without Kurama at all right now, especially if I want to add marks that only show up in certain parts of the map. What towns are called and where other important things are located? Kushina was thrilled and said, "That is one hell of a project you have thought of, Naru-chan. Definitely, and you don't have the skills to pull it off right now. It's likely going to take you a couple of years to get there. I'm not going to make it for you, but I will show you how to do it. It should only take 2 years, so you should finish right before you graduate." "How did you plan to find your way around the map?" "Why?" Minato asked. "I thought about using a special felt tip and a butt that was covered in cloth." Naruto explained, "The felt tip is for making marks on the map, the side is for erasing the marks, and the button changes the focus and zooms in or out." "Yes, I can show you how to do that. After you're done, you might want to put a stasis seal on the back of the scroll to make it harder to destroy and stop someone from stealing it." He said, "Okay, thanks to San," and then he hugged him. After a few days, after deciding that he would visit Kurama a few times a week, even if all they did was talk, this visit was different. He came to tell Kurama that he was going to be freed from the cage soon. He went into Kurama's part of the mindscape through the front door of the Hokage Tower in Konoha, by opening the door that had been the sewer opening. He had to walk a while to get to the cage on top of the Hokage monument. Naruto was polite and said, "Hello Kurama-san. It's just Kurama Kit, your human honorifics bother me," Kurama replied. "Okay Kurama, I came to give you some good news and then just talk for a while." Kurama was interested and asked, "What is this good news, Kit?" "All right, I found a way to free you from that cage so you can wander around this part of my mind. I'm not going to let you out of the seal, don't get me wrong. I really don't know how you would go about it, to be honest. To give you room to move around, I can change how the seal is shown here. The good news is that I can do it. The bad news is that I probably won't be able to do it for about 2 years because I don't have the control over my mindscape I need to do it. That time, this place will be a lot bigger. I sent some clones out to explore, and when they come back with memories of other places, this place will grow." "I see," was all Kurama said, but his voice was full of excitement. They talked for a few hours after that before Naruto went to see his parents. This would happen every day until he was able to change the cage. After a year, a bell went off as Naruto walked through the door of the weapons store. A girl about a year older than him sang, "Welcome to Higurashi Weapons," in a nice girly voice. She wore a pink Chinese shirt and put her hair up in a bun. "Hi, what's your name?" he asked the girl because she looked like she was also in training to be a shinobi. Tenten looked at the boy in the orange clothes that said, "Please kill me now," and said, "Sorry, my name is Higurashi Tenten." Naruto Uzumaki, "Do you want to become a shinobi?" "Yes I am. How did you understand?" This is how Naruto put it. "It's just the way you carry yourself." "I'm impressed," he said. "Not many people would notice that." I just gave her one of my fox grins and said, "Thanks." "It's okay. Are there any specific things you want?" "Yeah, do you have any chakra weights?" Tenten replied, "Yes, we do, but they're really pricey." Naruto asked with thought, "How much are you talking?" 10000 ryo per set. A set includes 2 ankle and 2 wrist weights. Naruto felt it in his gut. They will never be able to afford that. Who won't be able to afford it? A couple of my friends would really benefit from training with weights, and it would be even more of a waste to get weights that can't get heavier. "How many friends are you talking about?" Naruto said, 4, while wincing again. "Wow, I can see why you're wincing," Tenten tried to comfort her. "Yeah, I guess I'll just worry about it later and just look around for now." Naruto then began to look around the store to see what they had. To be honest, it was pretty amazing. Higurashi Weapons had so many dangerous and unusual weapons that he had never even heard of some of them. There were only scrolls on a 4-foot-long shelf that looked like it was always full until he got to a shelf that said, "Storage Scrolls." He went back to the front desk again because he was interested in why it was almost empty. Naruto asked, "I saw that there was a shelf for storing scrolls. I was just wondering why there were only 3 on that huge shelf for them." Tenten just laughed. Tenten started to feel a little down. The person who usually makes them first died on a recent mission, and Tusan hasn't been able to find someone new who can make them for us. Naruto had an epiphany. "How much did you buy the scrolls from that guy for?" 200 ryo each. "Why do you ask?" Tenten was interested now and asked. "I can make storage scrolls. If I were to make 190 of them, would you be able to buy them from me?" Tenten's mood got better when she heard that, but it went back down when she remembered that the person who asked was probably a kid a year younger than her. "Sure, we could, as long as they are of adequate quality." Naruto gave Tenten a scroll that he had pulled out of his pocket. "I made that storage scroll." She took the scroll and opened it, and inside she found a book called Intermediate Fuinjutsu Level 6. The bookmarks showed that he had been reading because they were stuck all over the page. She then took a look at the storage scroll and saw that it was a very good one. Tenten asked with doubt, "You made this scroll?" "That's right," Naruto said. "Then the answer is probably yes, but I'll have to go get my father to approve of it." He said, "Okay," and then he watched Tenten walk into the store's back room. After a few minutes, she came back carrying a man who looked like a tank. The color of his brown hair matched Tenten's. It was only 6 centimeters long and split down the middle. His face looked a lot like Tenten's, but it was wider and a little more angular. He was also at least 3 times wider than either of the younger people. Just like Tenten, he moved like a shinobi, but his steps were much smoother and more precise. When he saw Naruto, his eyes went wide for a moment, but he quickly covered up how shocked he was. Nito thought, he knows who I am. What do you think? Did Two-san get his Hiraishin Kunai here? After work, I'll have to ask him. He held up the scroll Naruto had given Tenten and said, my daughter said that you offered to make some storage scrolls for us. You made this scroll. A little slack in his voice, the man asked, is that true? Naruto said, yes. Okay then, if you are willing to make some for us, I am willing to buy them from you. We are in desperate need of them anyway. Tenten said you offered to make 190 of them. Why that number? He asked. Then almost as an afterthought said, oh yeah, my name is Higurashi Keizuki by the way. Naruto put his hands on his head and talked. Well, the friends I train with need some weights and chakra weights are the best, but we would need 40,000 ryo to get them. Making 190 scrolls would earn 38,000 ryo, which would leave them to pay 500 ryo a piece. I don't want my friends to think they are just a gift that they can dump in their rooms and forget, so I'm leaving them to pay the rest. Keizuki was once more impressed. How about this? You make 200 scrolls and I'll give you all of the supplies that you will need to make them. That's fine. Keizuki went to the back of the store and came back several times with 200 scrolls, 2 bottles of ink, and a calligraphy brush. Naruto knew he could never carry all of the supplies, so he took the brush and a scroll and began making a new storage scroll that he could use to keep everything. Naruto took a moment to let the ink dry after writing the seal. He then went back to check his work and put all the supplies inside it. 13 and Keizuki both looked at him with wide eyes as he did this. Keizuki's suspicions were confirmed, and Naruto reassured him that he could trust the boy, even though the boy was only 10 years old and was offering to teach him what was likely the most difficult ninja art. But Tenten was a different story. Tenten thought, that's so cool. He just wrote for a minute on a piece of paper, and now it can hold all of that stuff. I wonder how many weapons that kind of scroll could hold. I mean, I'm pretty good with weapons, but I can only carry so many at a time. But I think I could carry as many as I wanted if I did that. He turned to look at the 2 Higurashi when he was done putting the toys away. Okay, I'll see you in 2 days. Again, Keizuki looked shocked. You can finish that many scrolls in just 2 days. Don't rush through them. Take your time, it won't matter that much. Naruto waved goodbye as he left the store and said, I'll see you then. After 2 days, Naruto came back into Higurashi Weapons with the scroll that held 200 storage scrolls that 2 of his clones had made while he was at school the last 2 days. When he walked in, Tenten was back at the checkout counter. Welcome to Higura. Oh, hello Naruto-san, how are you? I'm good, but could you just drop the honorific? They have always kinda annoyed me, Naruto said. I agree, Naruto. What do you need today? What? I brought the storage scrolls one promised to make, Naruto said, sounding a little lost. Okay, I'll go get my Two-san. Tenten went into the back and came back a short time later with her dad. Keizuki was shocked to see him. Already back? What do you need this time? Why? Keizuki asked. Naruto didn't say anything. He just turned over a storage scroll that was full of storage scrolls and swatted a fly. You were done with all of them already. When did you have time to do that? That doesn't really matter, though. Tenten, could you please get his 38,000 ryo? Excuse me, may I have it? He swatted the fly again and said, when my friends come by, I'd like you to just give them the chakra weights and charge them 500 ryo. She asked, you don't want them to know how much you're spending on them. Keizuki was shocked. Naruto tried to get rid of the fly that was still bothering him by saying, not really. I want them to improve, not worry about how to pay me back. The more they improve, the more likely they are to survive. Damn fly. Naruto's ear was hit by something sudden. When he turned around to see what it was, he saw a Senbon sticking out of the wall and shaking from the impact. As he got closer, He saw that it was going through the fly that was bothering him. Naruto turned around and back to the counter. He looked at Tenten with awe as her arm went back to her side. Could you show me how to do that? I'm not very good at throwing things. Kazuki was impressed by Naruto's answer about his friends and by how good his daughter was with the Senbon. Tenten looked ashamed. I guess so. Just come around some time and we can practice at the target out back as long as I'm not looking after the store. What about 3 hours after you get home from the academy, say every Monday? That way, you and your partner can practice together, is that okay? Why? Kazuki asked. Thanks, Chu-san. Do you feel like it, Naruto? Naruto tried to hide his slight sadness behind his stupid mask by saying, that sounds good too. I don't have to be anywhere. Kazuki wasn't fooled, and he felt a little sad that his friend's son had to hide his feelings like Naruto did. Anyway, tell your friends to get the chakra weights. How are we going to figure out who they are? Naruto took a moment to think. I'll tell them to say that they came to get what Uzumaki Naruto ordered for them, he said. Kazuki said, sounds good, and Naruto walked out of the shop. The next day, hey guys, can we meet on the roof? His friends asked him this as the school was about to end for the day. His friends didn't even bother to answer when they went up to the roof after school was over. Naruto said with an evil grin, I've got a little something for when we meet up at the training area in 3 days. This made his friend shiver for a moment. This is going to be so annoying, Shikamaru said. His voice was monotone as he said, gift. Yes, but some of you will need to get some parts of it. That thing I bought for Choji, Sasuke, Shino, and Sakura was a great deal. You guys only need to pick it up at Higurashi Weapons, which is on the main street near the Inuzuka compound. Naruto told them, just say you came to get the things I ordered for you. Be careful, it will cost 500 ryo. Sakura blew up and said, 500 ryo. How are we going to get that? I don't care, maybe tell your parents it is for training equipment or earn it. That is what I did. For a second, no one spoke until Hinata did. Why don't Shikamaru or I need it? Naruto replied, your style of fighting doesn't need it. Any other questions? Because if not I'm going to go get some Ichiraku ramen. After 3 days, when they met at the place where they trained, Sasuke, Shino, Sakura, and Choji each had a small box with them, while Naruto had a towel on his back. As soon as they were settled down, Sakura began to whine. I can't believe we had to spend 500 ryo on 4 bracelets. She told me. Shino told her, I wouldn't get upset if I were you. These normally cost 10,000 ryo per set after all. So quickly did everyone look at Naruto that he thought a few of them might have gotten whiplash. How did you know Shino? After I picked my set up I looked around the store. That is quite an amazing store actually, Shino said and put his sunglasses up before going on. When I saw an exact copy of the chakra weights I was holding, I noticed it was priced at 10,000 ryo. How did you arrange for us to buy them for only 500 ryo by the way? Naruto let out a little air. I didn't want you to know. I paid for the rest. Chloe asked. Why, Munch Carrot, don't you want us to know, Munch Carrot? You spent a lot of money on us. That is exactly why I didn't tell you. I didn't want you to see them as a gift and just forget about them. That's why I made sure you would still pay for 500 ryo of it. So you would appreciate them. And I technically didn't pay for them. Instead I made 200 storage scrolls for their store and that paid for the rest of the weights. Sakura asked, so what are they for? While giving Sasuke a look that said, are you kidding me? Naruto said, weight training. That was Sakura's turn to talk. So how do they work? First, put the bands around your wrist and clasp them shut. The band with the red dot should go on first, because it is the master. Naruto began to explain what he had read and watched as the other 3 did it. Channel a little chakra to the clasp. The 4 people used some chakra to connect the bands and watched as they formed a bracelet that fit their wrists perfectly. On one side of the bracelet was a symbol with the kanji character for open, in a circle and a 0 on the other. Sakura said, wow, again. While he looked at his friends, Naruto liked how shocked they looked. He told them to do the same thing with their other wrists and ankles and then waited until they were all done. You see the zeros? They said, yes, that is how much they weigh now. Send some chakra to each number and will them to become 5. Naruto waited again while they did this. Chloe said in between chips, they got less than munch carrot heavier. They are chakra weights after all. You can decrease them by doing what you just did again. You can also make them all go back to 0 by channeling some chakra to that red dot and saying, Kai, in the normal release method. Naruto told us, just don't set them beyond what your body can stand. And don't increase them too quickly for a few years or you will end up short. He turned to look at Naruto. Thanks. Thank you Naruto. Munch, thanks, Munch. He said, thank you very much, Naruto-san. Naruto raised an eyebrow. How many times have I told you not to add san? Hinata asked, a little upset that she didn't get any weights. What about Shikamaru and I? Naruto pulled his shirt off his right shoulder and used chakra to open his resistance seal, which had a 10 feet in the middle. You don't need them. Both of your styles require speed more than strength, so you are getting one of these. Everyone but Choji is getting one of these as he needs strength much more than speed. This is a resistance seal. It literally makes the air resist your movements. The amount of resistance increases every level. Level 1 is like walking through water, so you can guess how hard it can be to move. When you activate the seal you will have to constantly run chakra through your body to move normally. But the trick is to slowly decrease the amount of chakra you are using to walk normally. When you can move normally without chakra you increase the level, and you really need to be able to move normally or you won't be able to move at all when you increase the level. The great thing about this training is that your speed will skyrocket. Be warned that it will probably take 6 months to a year to get used to each level. Sakura spoke up again after seeing that Naruto's seal was at level 10. But what about you? Why is yours at level 10? Naruto said, I'm a bit of a bizarre case. Shikamaru asked, why is that? Naruto freaked out for a second and then calmed down. He said, I'll tell you later, which made Shikamaru more interested. Anyhow, you increase the level and zero it out just like the weights. You need to train with it off for 1 day a week so you are used to your full speed. Another good thing about this though, you don't have to worry about it making you short. Naruto laughed before turning serious again. If you ever feel like you are running out of chakra, deactivate the seal. It shouldn't be a problem now that everyone has mastered water walking, but just be careful. Hinata asked, so where are you going to put the seal? Naruto replied, the same place mine is. But, don't worry, you and Sakura. I brought this towel for you to wrap up in while I put the seal on. Once Naruto was done putting on the seal, they sat down to talk about the next step in their training. Sasuke spoke his mind. I think we should learn jutsu. Even though most jutsu are pretty simple to learn, I think we should learn some more exercises to help us use less chakra when we do them. Hinata said, that way we can use any jutsu more times before we get tired. There is a problem with learning jutsu, and it's a pain. How are we going to get them? Shikamaru said, not getting up from the ground or taking his eyes off the clouds. Sasuke got excited and said, my clan has a jutsu library. But you can't get to it without an active Sharingan. Naruto said, I guess that rules that out. Then chakra control exercises, Shino said in a short sentence. More exercises to control your chakras. Sakura was about to whine. Just because, munch, you have an easy time with, munch, chakra control, doesn't mean we all do, munch, said Choji. Naruto saw that his friends were upset, so he came up with his own idea, let's do something that is a bit of both. Ma'am, what do you mean? Sasuke asked. You know that there are 2 main ways to work with chakras, right? I saw where he was going and looked up at him. You mean shape transformation and nature transformation, right? Yes, that. Controlling the shape, movement, and power of chakra is what shape transformation is all about. We did exercises to control our chakras that show this. It has to do with the size, range, and purpose of any technique you use. Nature transformation deals with changing the properties and characteristics usually into the different elements, though medical chakra is another example of nature transformation. It is slightly easier to perform, to tell the truth, Naruto said as he looked at Sakura. So what type of training are you thinking about? Why? Hinata asked. Training our affinities. Affinities are the elements that our chakra naturally transforms into the easiest. If we do this, when we get to learning jutsu they are both much more effective and take less chakra to perform. If you get far enough in the training it is possible to manipulate the element without using jutsu and help decrease the number of hand seals you need to activate the jutsu of your element. Sasuke changed from having a frown to looking more than a little gleeful. That is something that I could like, he said as he rubbed his hands together. Agreed. My clan does not often train with elemental chakra so it could prove advantageous, Shino put in. Yes it could. This is usually a Junin level technique as it takes both a long time and a lot of chakra to complete. Thankfully we have a lot of time on our hand in which we can do this and the chakra to spare as we don't have to use much in our life as academy students. The first exercise for each affinity requires only a leaf. Oh, and good news for you Shikamaru, you can lay and watch the clouds while you do it. For once it isn't that troublesome, I'm in, Shikamaru said. Munch, alright, munch, Choji said between bites. Same here, Sasuke agreed. Me too, Hinata consented. Agreed, Shino said in his monotone voice. Fine, if everyone else agrees so do I, Sakura said. Okay then, I'm glad I have this on me, Naruto said as he took out a scroll and unsealed intermediate Fuinjutsu level 6 and took out 7 of the slips of paper that he had been using as bookmarks, folding the pages as he went. What, munch, are those, munch? Choji asked. These are pieces of chakra paper, Naruto said as he handed a slip to everyone and kept one for himself. Channel some chakra into them and they will show you your natural affinity. If your affinity is wind the paper will be cut, earth will turn to dust, water will get wet, lightning will crinkle, and fire will set it alight. Let's go one at a time, I'll start to show you what it should look like since I already know my affinities. Sakura quickly picked up on what Naruto said. Wait, affinities, you can have more than one. Yes, you can, some people don't have any, some have more than one, and some start out with none or one and get more as they age. I have 3. Wind, water, and earth. Naruto then focused his chakra on the piece of paper in his hand. At first, it almost tore apart even more so than the first time, then half of the pieces broke down in water and the other half turned into dust before it flew away. Wow, was it really meant to be that extreme? Choji asked. Yes and no. Because I have such strong affinities, it was such a show. Usually, the paper would just tear in half, and the pieces would get wet and start to turn into dust. They wouldn't have gone away completely like they did. Choji, why don't you go next? Choji said, okay. He then held up the piece of paper and sent chakra into it. About half of the piece of paper turned into dust. Earth. That works for you, Choji. Think about how dangerous your clan moves would be if you turned your skin into stone. There is a technique that can do that, but I don't know what it is. If Sasuke ever gets into the Uchiha library, we might be able to find it, Naruto thought out loud. How about you, Shika? Shikamaru didn't say anything, he just held the slip up and used chakra to make it wrinkle and almost roll up. Naruto paused and then said, that could be interesting too. I wonder if you could send lightning through your shadow. Shikamaru stopped looking so lazy all of a sudden and started looking very thoughtful. You next Hinata. I think I know what will happen but we'll see. Hinata said. Then here we go, and she copied Choji and Shikamaru. The paper got wet and then almost completely broke down. Yep, I thought so. Why did you think that? Hinata asked Naruto before he could go on. The way you move. If someone attacks or defends against you, you just seem to move around them. Naruto said, I think that's why you have such a hard time with the original Juken. You can tell that Juken is an earth-based style of taijutsu because many of the moves involve planting your feet and staying still while dealing damage. Okay, I see what you did. I wonder if you could deal Juken strikes through a water whip or make a water version of that spinny move. Shino said calmly, I'll go next. He held up the slip and sent chakra into it. As he watched, the whole thing fell apart into dust except for a small corner that lit up and turned to ash. That's really cool. I get the earth because of how you act and how you're connected to your hive. The fire is a little strange, but I can think of some really sneaky ways to use it. They might work, but I'm not sure. Soon, I'll tell you about it, but first I need to ask some questions. Who'd like to go next? Sasuke gave a firm, "I will," and showed the others as he focused chakra into it. It quickly crinkled into a ball like Shikamaru's, and then it caught fire. That was not expected. Lightning is stronger than fire, but having fire is almost in your blood as a Uchiha. It looks like Sakura is the only one left. Sakura didn't say anything as she lifted the paper and used her chakra. The result was probably the strangest so far. Most of the paper got wet, but after a few seconds, half of it dried out and then caught fire. That doesn't happen often. A second affinity for the weakness of their main affinity isn't something most people will have. Still, it would explain your anger, Naruto said. Those of you who have two affinities, pick one to begin with. You can choose your main affinity, the one that came up first, if you want to. Take a leaf and try to do what it says with your chakra. The slips are designed to change any chakra that is put in them into the elements that chakra is most attuned to. The trick now is to make your chakra do that on purpose. Naruto quickly caught up to Shino as everyone else went their separate ways. Hey Shino. What is it, Naruto-san? Remember how I said I had an idea but I needed to ask some questions first? Shino cocked his head. Yes. Go ahead. Your Kikaichu absorb chakra, but can they regurgitate it? I do not know. Why? I was just thinking that it could be perfect for someone who was strategic fighter like you to produce some fire chakra, have your Kikaichu eat it before going to your enemy and injecting it into their coils. I don't know what kind of damage it would do, but I'm sure it would hurt like hell and distract them so you can do something to them while their full attention is not on you. That is an interesting idea. I will have to think about it. Thank you for the idea, Naruto-san. Naruto said to Shino, no problem. What are friends for? As he left. After 6 months, Naruto was just about to lose the Anbu that were after him after his latest trick when he hit something tough. When he looked up, he saw Yumino Iruka, his teacher, staring back at him with a slightly angry look on his face. Iruka asked Naruto in a voice that was somewhere between speaking and yelling, "What do you think you are doing?" Haha. Naruto laughed and didn't answer. Let's go back to class, Naruto. How do you do it, Iruka-sensei? I can get away and hide from Junin and Anbu without problem, but you always find me. After every prank, every time I skip class, you always find me. How do you do it? Naruto cried out. For a second, Iruka looked like she was thinking about what to say to Naruto. I'll tell you if you tell me why you always act like an idiot. Naruto almost fell on his behind when he tripped. Naruto took off his idiot mask and asked, how did you know? Only Gigi, my friends, and a few other people can tell I'm hiding my true abilities. I can tell because I used to be the prankster of my class just like you, and I would wear a mask to hide certain parts of myself. There was also a couple times that your mask slipped when you were first put in my class, Iruka answered. Now why do you put on your idiot act? At first it was to protect myself, but after I started doing pranks I found that I would get attention from people other than my friends and the few other people who care about me. Instead of the normal looks of cold indifference or just being outright ignored, people would notice me. Then there is the fact that the pranks are funny, that helps too. So how do you keep finding me? It is frustrating me so much. I like to think I'm pretty good at stealth. Hell, I can even sneak past and away from Anbu when I prank them, but I can never escape from you, a Chunin instructor. It makes me doubt my stealth skills, so how do you find me? When Naruto told him why, Iruka looked very sad, but the rant that came after made him laugh. Iruka said, it is a technique that I made up. When Naruto heard that, he got very excited. Could you teach me, Iruka-sensei? Maybe someday, Naruto. Maybe someday, Iruka said, but she was really thinking something else, but not while you're in my class. If I did, I'll never be able to find you again. After 2 months, Naruto yelled as he jumped around his room, it's finally done. For more than a year and a half, he worked on his map. It was a lot harder than he thought it would be. The parts that were easiest were the projection and stasis seals. Making the controls to see other parts of the map was the hard part. In the end, He had to add a genjutsu seal that would make the land rise above the map and make a hologram. The map on the scroll, on the other hand, was just a normal, if more complete, map of the elemental nations. Making a circle on the map with a finger and a small amount of chakra would zoom in on that area. Making a circle in the hologram with the same finger and a small amount of chakra would make the image even clearer. To get rid of it, you just used a little chakra to touch the scroll outside the map. It wasn't even close to being done. Naruto put clones to work exploring the land of fire, the land of rivers, and some of the land of hot water. However, those were the only places on his map that he could call up. When he could leave the village as a shinobi, he would have to add more. After 4 months, as Tenten was graduating in a few days, it would be Naruto's last training session with her for a while. Since she was the best kunoichi in her class, Naruto was sure she would make it onto a team. The last thing they talked about was strategies that Tenten or people who use weapons like her could use against different types of opponents. What would happen if you threw all the weapons you had on you at me, like right now? Naruto asked, pointing to the targets and the huge number of weapons Tenten had stuck in them. Tenten said, "Well, if that ever happens, I can do this," as a kunai dug into the ground near them. Naruto started to say, "How did?" He then looked in the direction the kunai had come from and saw 9 more floating in the air. "How are you doing that?" She answered, "Chakra strings," as Naruto used his dujutsu, which he had started calling Fox Eyes, just for fun in his head. He saw tiny threads of chakra going from her fingers to the kunai that was floating in the air. What else could you do with that? He was curious. Tenten almost read his mind when he said, "This is the same thing that puppeteers from Suna use to control their puppets." Speaking of Suna, what would you do if you had to go up against a wind user, which they are famous for? They would just be able to blow away your weapons, cut the threads with wind, and throw you away with wind while you tried to regain your balance after throwing your weapons. There was silence as Tenten stood there, her mouth open wide like a fish on land. Naruto had just pointed out a weakness in her that could kill her if she didn't fix it. Naruto opened his Fuinjutsu book and gave Tenten a piece of paper. This time, it was Master Level Book 2, but he had done this for his other friends. Keep this, it might eventually help you find a way to overcome that problem. After Tenten took the chakra paper slip, Naruto got up and left her standing there without moving. Thoughts. It looked like Naruto was about to jump up and down with joy. He was done with his 4th year and was finally going to learn his father's signature moves, Rasengan and Hiraishin. After the few hours they always set aside for family time, Naruto made a kage bunshin and sent it with his mother to practice either Kenjutsu or Fuinjutsu, depending on what she chose. He then followed his father. "Okay Naruto, I'm going to start by explaining the 3rd step of the Rasengan, as you can practice that on your own, then move on to the Hiraishin as we will have to modify the seals to respond to you." Minato got started. Naruto excitedly yelled, "Let's start, Chu-san," and pumped his fist in the air. "First you must make me a promise. You must never show off the Hiraishin and you must find some place to practice it where you have absolutely no chance of being seen. Don't use it unless it is a matter of life or death until you become acknowledged as my son." Hearing how serious his father was, Naruto quickly calmed down. "I swear to San." "Good. The final step of the Rasengan is relatively easy. When I taught you those 2 chakra control exercises, I in essence taught you most of it. The first exercise taught you how to make your chakra spin and the second taught you how to concentrate enough power in it to make it truly damaging. The final step is to combine the 2 steps inside a shell of chakra like so." Naruto sees a Rasengan made by Minato. The important thing is to contain the force. That is what makes it so much more dangerous than if you tried to attack with the second stage. Even if you have enough power at that point, the power bleeds off without something to hold it in. Try it yourself. Just seconds after Naruto tries, the Rasengan starts to shake, and he is thrown through the air as it blows up in his hand. OWWW, that hurt. It was a good try, much better than I thought you would manage actually. Anyway, just keep practicing. Remember, this jutsu took me 3 years to master, so don't worry if it takes a long time to get down. He walked over to his son, put out one of his 3-pronged kunai, and gave him a hand. I've never seen one before. It's not like that at all, Naruto thought. It looks a lot like the hilt and cross guard of a katana. Maybe. No, I'll think about that idea some more. The Hiraishin is a bit different. You saw the kunai and the seals on it. Well, despite what some people might think, it is not simply a technique that allows me to move at insane speeds. It is based off of summoning, but that is where it gets interesting. The seals on the kunai essentially make each kunai part of my body, at least as far as my chakra is concerned. Since the kunai is considered part of my body, the space-time ninjutsu that is used to make the Hiraishin work is basically used to reunite parts of my body by transporting my ma body through an extra-dimensional void. With practice you can throw of the Hiraishin kunai and decide which one of the thrown body parts you want to reunite with. It is also possible to place the seal formula on other objects and have them recognized as part of your body also. For instance, if you visited a village and placed the seal formula on the gate would then become part of you and you could use the Hiraishin to teleport there whenever you want. This is especially good for as you can use the Uzumaki sealing method to place the seal and it will remain completely unseen yet allow you to teleport yourself to it. That is amazing, but why does it leave a yellow flash behind? Naruto wanted to know. I built that into the seal formula. If you want we can change the color. Really, can we make it the scarlet color of Ka-chan's hair? Ha 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 ha. Of course we can. But aren't you a real mama's boy? Minato asked with a smile. Naruto couldn't think of a way to make his father stop talking, so he just kept quiet. Anyway, that's level 1 of the Hiraishin. Level 2 is a little different. In level 1, I could scan my surroundings by sending a pulse of chakra through the ground. In level 2, I use that to my advantage. Instead of learning about my surroundings by a pulse through the ground, the kunai sends out the pulse when it hits something, and I can teleport to anywhere within the range of that pulse. This is done by making the chakra think that the chakra in the pulse is part of the body, not the kunai itself. When you teleport to a point in the pulse, the bit of chakra you thought was part of yourself is returned. This version takes a lot more chakra to use. Naruto was sad and said, "But San, I can't send a pulse of chakra through the ground like you can." "I know, but I'm sure you'll figure it out in the end." Minato told him, "Pay attention to level 1 before level 2. Now that you know most of the seal formula, you can change it to respond to you and leave a red flash while I check for mistakes. You need to get some Hiraishin kunai in real life, too, and you can't just ask Keizuki to make you some." Naruto looked at his dad with a shocked look on his face and asked, "You mean Higurashi Keizuki? He probably already knows I'm your son." "How do you know Keizuki, Naruto?" Minato asked with a shocked look. "He's the dad of one of my friends. I told you about Tenten, right?" "You mean the girl with the gun?" "Yeah, that is her. Her name is Higurashi Tenten." Minato thought about the new information for a moment. "Well, this might work then." "What do you think might work, San?" As Naruto grew impatient, he asked. "Go talk to him and tell him about us, make sure he swears to keep silent about it and a privacy barrier, and then ask him to make some Hiraishin kunai for you." Naruto said, "I thought no one should know about you." "You're right, but just like your mom trusts Makoto-san, I do too. I've known him for a long time." "Okay San, I try talking to him." Minato told Naruto. "Good. Now let's practice," and that's what they did. The next day, when Naruto walked into Higurashi Weapons, he was lucky. On most days, Tenten would be at the counter, but today Keizuki was there instead. "Good afternoon Keizuki-san, where's Tenten?" he wanted to know. She replied with a shudder, "Hello Naruto. She is with her new team." "Why the shudder? It is just her sensei. Don't get me wrong, he is an incredible shinobi, but her Junin sensei Maida guy is a bit eccentric," he said wryly. Naruto was now interested and asked, "What do you mean?" "What I mean is that he wears a green skin-tight spandex bodysuit with leg and arm warmers the same color as your clothes," Keizuki said. "I see. I can see why you would have reservations, but I don't think you have to worry about Tenten being infected by his fashion sense." The thought made Keizuki laugh so hard that it took him a few minutes to center himself again. "I needed that, so what did you come for anyway?" Naruto stopped acting like a fool and gave Keizuki a very serious look. Can we talk somewhere private? It was him who said, so this is the real you. Come on back. He stood up and led the way back into his forge. Is this private enough? In a flash, Naruto built a wall to protect his privacy. Now it is. Reminds me of my mother, Uzumaki Kushina. When Keizuki's head snapped around so quickly, he did get a mild case of whiplash. You know, Naruto said in a calm voice, that my parents are Uzumaki Kushina and Namikaze Minato. Keizuki was still shocked and asked, how is that possible? Naruto began to say, when Toussaint sealed the Kyuubi, but stopped when he heard Keizuki choke. Keizuki was shocked and tried to shut down his mind when he said, you even know about the Kyuubi. Naruto snapped, let me finish before you make assumptions. He then kept Keizuki in the world of the living. When Toussaint sealed the Kyuubi into me, he realized that I would probably face harsh treatment, so he made some precautions. He and my mother created a cage bunshin which he sealed into my mindscape. They were essentially asleep until I started producing enough chakra to support them and provide them with enough chakra to survive 2 days just in case I came down with a case of chakra exhaustion. Anyway, my Ka-chan woke up first, then my Toussaint, and they have been teaching me what I would need to know to be a shinobi. They taught me sealing, taijutsu, and kenjutsu among other things, but Toussaint recently taught me his signature jutsu. Once more, Keizuki walked in. You know Hiraishin. Yes, but I need the special kunai for it. Toussaint told me that you made them for him and he trusted you with his life, so we took a gamble that you would be safe to tell this secret, Naruto added. Keizuki said, I see, and he seemed to pull in on himself. After 5, 10, and 20 minutes, Naruto was getting really worried when he spoke up again. I believe you. Hell, I would believe you if just because you know a lot of stuff you aren't supposed to. I'll help you out, both with the kunai and with anything else you might need. But I've got one question for you. What is with the orange? Naruto made a face. This monstrosity is part of my mask. It took a long time to learn to ignore it. But seriously, what better way is there to be underestimated than to be seen as an idiot that sticks out so much you can't miss him? I guarantee it will disappear the second I graduate. I should have known when you made that storage scroll so quickly, but I'm glad you don't like that eyesore and want to get rid of it. The kunai will take a while to make, and you'll have to engrave the seal formulae, but I'll do it for you. Come back in a couple of weeks. Naruto had the kunai now, or at least he would have. But the Hiraishin was a very special move, and he still had to find a secret spot to practice. Once Naruto got to his apartment, he decided that worrying about it wouldn't help him, so he took out the storage scroll that held advanced Fuinjutsu level 2. As he opened the scroll, he wished he had a place to practice or the room to make his own. Then he realized that he did have enough room. The question was whether he could make something in that space. It was easy to make the space because storage scrolls were just pocket dimensions where people put their stuff. The pocket dimensions didn't have a set size, but the first time he activated one with a big space, it would probably take a crazy amount of chakra. The problem was how to turn the empty space into something else, how to get the things for a training ground. Thoughts. He called out, Ka-chan, Toussaint, I need your help with a project, as soon as he got close to the house. They walked over to their son and were interested in what he was planning because he didn't ask for help with his projects very often. First, I have good news, Toussaint. Yes, you told Keizuki. He asked, how did it go? Naruto said with a serious face before breaking into a foxy grin, very good, he accepted that I knew and is making Hiraishin kunai for me. You should have seen him when I said that I knew that Uzumaki Kushina was my Ka-san. Someone whipping their head around so fast that they got whiplash is something I've never heard of. He did. Lol. Ha 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 ha. He really did. That's so funny, Minato said as he began to calm down. What project did you need help with, Naru-chan? Kushina asked when things were back to normal. I need a place to practice the Hiraishin now that I know how to do it. It's not possible for me to practice here because I might change the rules that govern the mindscape by accident. You know how this place reacts to my thoughts. Anyway, can you imagine how much trouble it would cause if word got out that the demon brat knew the Hiraishin? Naruto said, I found where I'm going to put it, but I don't know how to get the training ground there. Where are you going to put it? Why? Minato asked. In the size of a pocket. I'm going to make what's basically a storage scroll with a door that will fit into the pocket dimension when I turn it on. Putting it on the scroll and making it so big will take a lot of chakra, but that will only be the first time. But, as I already said, it will be hard to turn the inside into a training ground. Also, how would I let the sun shine in? Is there some kind of clear seal? Naruto began to think out loud. It would have to be changed to break through the dimensional barrier. Kushina yelled, Naru-chan, Naru-chan, to bring him back to the present. He felt bad and said, sorry Ka-chan. Do you know how I can do it or should I just give up? After a short pause, Kushina asked Minato, Mina-kun, could Naru-chan use a duplication seal? Maybe he could, but how would he mark the edge of such a big area? In what way do you mean to mark the line? Then Naruto spoke up. A duplication seal literally duplicates anything within a certain area, but that area has to be marked very clearly or it will fail, Minato said. For a moment, everyone was quiet as they tried to figure out how to make a boundary the size Naruto wanted. It was Naruto who finally spoke up. Does the boundary have to be something physical? No, Kagaya asked. Why do you ask Naru-chan? I saw my friend Tenten use chakra to lift a bunch of kunai off the ground. It was really cool. I saw that she had chakra strings attached to her kunai when I looked to see the chakra. I want to know if I could use chakra strings instead of something physical as a boundary. Unfortunately, Minato broke the silence this time. That might work, but we would have to change the duplication seal to recognize that type of boundary, and you will have to write this one out. You will have to make the pocket dimension first, then put the duplication seal inside it, and then make the boundary with it leading back to the scroll in the pocket dimension. This is likely to need almost as much chakra as making the pocket dimension. Should I ask Kurama for some of his chakra? Why? Naruto asked. Kushina told her, that's probably a great idea in both situations, but as you said, this will require a lot of chakra. You probably have enough on your own, but it's always good to be safe. But there is something you need to do first, she added. You need to work on making the chakra string boundary with as many Kage Bunshin as you can. More than 700 of Naruto's Kage Bunshin practiced using chakra strings to make a perfect 2-kilometer cube for a week in the mindscape. It really did take that long because the edges had to be perfect and the chakra strings had to go underground in parts of the area he was copying. The clones were working on the seals that would make the plan work. First, Naruto had to make chakra dampening seals to put around his apartment and the area he was going to copy so that no one would notice the unique feeling of Kurama's chakra. This was by far the easiest part of the project. Next, they had to change the storage scroll so that it could hold that much space and stay stable after being activated. Next, they worked on a duplication seal that was bigger than they ever thought possible. Finally, they had to figure out how to make a seal that would let light pass through the realm boundary. After all the planning was done, Naruto went to see Kurama. He wasn't sure if Kurama would help, even though they were starting to feel like friends. Naruto got right to the point when he got to the cage. Naruto walked up to Kurama and said, I need your help with something. What do you need, Kit? Some of your chakra. Why? Naruto simply said, I'm going to make a pocket dimension. Ha ha ha. Give me another one, Kurama said with a smile. I was serious. Really. I really didn't think that was something a person could do. If you want to borrow my chakra, you have to tell me how you plan to use it. In Fuinjutsu, there is a common seal called a storage seal that makes a pocket dimension that is exactly the size of the thing we want to seal. We changed it to make a pocket dimension that we want, and now we call it a dimension seal. Then we'll use a different seal to make a copy of the terrain that fits inside the pocket. A Biju would probably be the only thing that could open both of these seals because they use so much chakra. I'm going to build a place where I can train without being seen, so I can work on stronger moves without my enemies finding out about them. Interesting, you can use some of my chakra. May I touch you? Why? Kurama asked with some doubt in his voice. I want to form a link with you so we can talk even when I am in the real world. Of course you can close it if you want though. Kurama thought about it for a moment and then said, yes, Kit, may you touch me. Naruto quickly got ready for the first opening of his pocket dimension after leaving the mindscape. Naruto opened the link he and Kurama had just made and said, "Okay, everything is ready. Send me some chakra." "Okay, Kit, it's coming." And it did. It came and burned. Unlike Naruto's chakra, Kurama's almost burned through his coils as he sent more and more of it into the dimension seal. Then it stopped, and Naruto fell down. "Kit, are you okay?" "I will be," Naruto said after a moment to gather his thoughts. "I just wasn't expecting it to hurt that much." Kurama said, "You are human, we should have thought something like that," which made sense, but it felt like he was hiding something. As Naruto sent a small amount of chakra into the 7-foot-tall piece of chakra paper, "I guess I should check to make sure it worked," he said. The paper lit up for a moment, and then Naruto saw a blank space with only the sky. He stepped inside and saw the same seal, so he sent more chakra into it and watched it open up before stepping back out. Success. Now let's talk about the copy seal. Naruto rolled up the dimension scroll and walked to training ground 42, which he had found while looking for the right place to recreate. It had a big clearing, a small pond, and some trees. He set up the chakra dampening seals around himself, put the dimension scroll on the ground, and put the duplication scroll inside it. He then began making the chakra string boundary that covered a 2 kilometers cube of space, with about 1,300 meters above ground and the rest below. Connecting the chakra strings to the copy scroll the way he had practiced, Naruto called Kurama again and said, "Here we go again, send me some chakra." "Okay, here it comes." Unfortunately, he didn't have to deal with it for as long this time. Maybe it was worse this time because he had used so much of Kurama's chakra the first time. He started yelling as soon as he stood up to look at his work. "What's wrong, Kit?" I asked Kurama. "I forgot to take into account where the entrance is. Now I have to find a way to get through 700 meters of earth to reach my new training ground." That is rich. The project to make an undetectable and unfindable training ground worked, but you can't use it until you dig your way to the surface. If only I knew Doden. Dochu Igyo no Jutsu, Earth Release. Underground projection fish, then I could just go right through the earth. After a few days, even though his training ground project was mostly successful, he still had to keep a promise he made 2 years ago, just a few days after meeting Kurama. That's why he went to the mindscape and Kurama's cage with a bit of a plan. Naruto told Kurama, "Today I have a little something to give you." "What kind of present is it?" Kurama replied. "It looks like I finally have enough power over the mindscape to free you. I want to let you know that this could hurt. I'm not sure at all, though." As he walked up to Kurama's cage and put his hand on it, all of a sudden it started to shrink, getting smaller and smaller until it was so close around Kurama that he couldn't move. Then the corners pulled in to fit his shape, leaving only a foot between them. The cage started to pull in again, this time until it was touching him, with only a few centimeters between the bars. As Naruto watched, the bars started to flow together until Kurama looked like a metal sculpture. Finally, the metal started pulling away from most of his body and collecting at his neck. When it was done, he had a silverish black collar with the small paper seal that was on the cage remaining in place. He fell to one knee and breathed hard, just like the first time he connected this part of the mindscape to his memory. "Kit, are you okay?" Kuma asked, afraid that something was wrong with his container now that he was about to have a lot more freedom. "Okay, I'm good. That change to the cage was harder than that change to the mindscape from a sewer to this. There are some things you need to know. Nothing you do will be able to hurt that isn't already a part of this part of my mindscape. You are not going to be able to leave this part of my mind. I can find you no matter where you go in this room. These are all really just different ways the seal works. That doesn't matter. I'm not chained to a stone or locked up in a sewer. I'm not even locked up in a cage. I can roam freely in a world that is almost as good as the real one, but no one is trying to control me," Kurama said as he shrunk until he was about the size of a wolf. "I can even hunt here." Naruto said, "I'm glad you like it, Kurama." "Yes, I do." Kurama paused and then said, "In fact, I'm going to give you a gift in return. Or I should say that I already did." Remember that this is for both of us. The longer you last, the longer I last. When you used my chakra to make your dimension, it really burned because of the gift I gave you. What did you do to me? Naruto asked with a sinking heart, not sure if he trusted Kurama too much. The Jubi gave it to me from their family. It means mixing two or more things to make other things, like wind and water to make ice or water and earth to make trees. That sounds like a skill you should have used. Why did you never? Easy. I didn't have to. Why would I need to make lava or ice when I can destroy mountains or send tsunamis through the world with just one swing of my tail? I guess you're right, Naruto said, but his words stopped there. Other Biju also got this power, but in weaker forms, like how Son Goku, the Yonbi, gives his container the power to make lava. Once you're good at least two elements, you can combine them to make secondary or tertiary elements. To do this, just picture the element you want to make and create the right elemental chakra. It will happen naturally, just like with humans who have bloodlines that let them make combination elements, which is pretty much what you have now. It won't help to just make the chakra, Kurama said with a smirk. You will have to work with it like you do with any other element. It hurt so much because I had to build this ability into your basic structure, which I could only do with my chakra going through you. Okay, Naruto asked, will it be passed on to any children I have? He was beginning to like what he was hearing. Kit, how should I know? So now it is a situation of wait and see. Yes, indeed, I'm going to go hunt now. The next day. This could be a huge benefit, but I have to keep it a secret even more carefully than the fact that Kurama is sealed inside me. Namikaze Minato is my father, or I know the Hiraishin. I don't want the council to try to force me into the CRA even more than they already are when they find out about my family tree, which hopefully won't happen until I become a Junin. Naruto started to shake as he thought about the day he learned about the CRA. It was a day he would never forget because it was like a scar on his mind. Going back, Naruto got to the mindscape and thought it would be fun to walk to his parents' house. When he got there, he heard some strange noises. Harder, Minato. Harder, broke the steady pounding he was hearing. Naruto followed the sounds and opened the door to the room he was coming from. What he saw there was something he will never forget. His parents were pounding their privates together while they were naked. At least, they were until Naruto opened the door, and they sprang apart, letting Naruto see white liquid running down his mother's legs before his father put a sheet over them. Nahutoko, could you go wait for us on the beach? Minato said as the sheet dropped to cover them. Naruto said something, then ran away as fast as he could. 20 minutes later, Kushina and Minato walked down to the beach together. Are you okay, Naruto? Why? Minato asked. Chu-san, I don't know you. Why were you there? The father sighed and sat down next to his son. That's called sex. Don't worry about it until you're older. But keep this in mind. What we were doing was normal. You shouldn't be afraid of it or dislike it. To keep my promise, promise me that you will never read or write little orange books or even worse, become a super pervert. Naruto learned about birds and bees this way. At one point, his parents even pulled out the anatomy book he had read. It took 3 days before Naruto could overcome his embarrassment and bring himself to see his parents again. Flashback end. Thank Kami I made the pocket dimension training ground for practicing Hiraishin. Now I just have to reach the surface so I can use it. It will be impossible to actually practice with the ability Kurama gave me until I do. Especially when it comes to Mokuden would release. They would never let me do anything if they knew I could use the same techniques as the Shodaime Hokage, first Hokage, Naruto thought as he snapped out of his memories. The question now is how to get up to the surface. While I might be able to drill through it with the Rasengan, I haven't mastered that yet. I might also be able to use wind chakra to carve into it, but there would be nowhere I could put the earth after I cut it out. I guess I'm stuck with earth elemental manipulation. While I have gotten to the point where I have to turn boulders into dust with chakra, I'm not very good. In the end it took 4 months to actually make his way to the surface. Naruto had started worrying what he would find when he got there, but it turned out to be baseless worry. When he finally broke through the surface he found that the plants were still alive, as were the few animals that had managed to get duplicated. The pond had supplied enough water, Though more would probably be needed, and the trees kept the air fresh, though he would need to be careful what types of techniques he used. After he finally managed to get to his training ground, he ran into another problem: lack of training partners. He could of course make shadow clones, but whenever the spars started heating up, the clones would go up in a puff of smoke. It was getting frustrating, and it could be dangerous if he became too accustomed to his opponent disappearing after a single hit. Unfortunately, he couldn't just ask for an opponent. Oh, he could ask his friends, but he would annihilate them, and asking someone more advanced would defeat the whole purpose of making training grounds like he had. Naruto eventually decided to ask his parents if they knew a more durable clone. Thoughts. Like always when he first arrived in the mindscape, Naruto and his parents spent some time just being a family. Talking, playing games, it didn't really matter, just that they were a family. They spent this time even when Kurama had given Naruto his gift. So when they were ready to go do different things, usually one of them beating the crap out of him while the other taught a clone, he brought up the subject of sparring partners in the real world. Chu-san, Ka-chan, do you know a bunshin technique more durable than the cage bunshin? Why do you ask, Naru-chan? Kushina replied. I'm trying to spar in the real world, but whenever the spar starts to get serious, my opponent disappears. It really doesn't work for training, so I was wondering if you knew a better one. I do know several, but I don't know how to perform them. There is Tsuchi Bunshin, and I also read about Moku Bunshin, Wood Clone, and Shishio Bunshin, Blood Clone, in the Forbidden Scroll of Seals, but like I said, I don't know how to do them, Minato said regretfully. Maybe when you get a Junin sensei they can teach you one or spar with you themselves. I can't help you either. The only clone technique I know is the Mizu Bunshin, Water Clone, and that dispels in one hit just like the Cage Bunshin but without giving you its memories, Kushina said after Minato finished. Naruto said with sadness, I guess I'll just have to wait then. I have to put off another bit of training. It was time for Naruto to graduate. He had done a lot, but not as much as he would have liked. A group of 30 clones worked on his chakra control all the time, but it wasn't getting better, so he knew he needed to come up with some new exercises. His resistance seal was now at level 13, and it would soon be at level 14. He knew how to use the Hiraishin's first stage, but he could only do it a few times in a row before he got too tired to keep going. He was good at wind because he cut the waterfall he was using, and even drew the waterfall in with his wind and water because he temporarily switched the flow of a river. But he wasn't good at earth yet. It took too long to break down a boulder. The only reason he got to his training ground so quickly was because he always had 2 clones working on making the path and a third working on the steps behind them. He was just getting started with learning how to make ice. Making ice for drinks was cool, but it wouldn't help him in a fight. It was even worse that he had to make up his own exercises for sub-elements. The first one wasn't too bad, freezing a leaf, but the second one, making things out of ice, was taking a long time. On the bright side, he had learned how to play the Rasengan well and was now trying out different versions of it. He was going to cut back on his training for a week to get ready for graduation. Iruka-sensei stood at the front of the class and said, Okay, class. I know you probably already know this, but the graduation test is next Friday. You have a week to study, review, and practice before then, so make the most of it. You are now free to go. After those last words, everyone got up and began to talk to their friends as they left the room. One group that didn't leave was Naruto and his friends. They waited in their seats until everyone else did before going to the roof. They were all there except Sasuke, who Naruto saw almost run out the door to get away from his fans, especially Ino. As Naruto watched Sasuke run off, he caught a glimpse of Mizuki, the assistant teacher. For a split second, her face looked suspicious and almost calculated, but then it changed to one of kindness. Naruto thought, he always looks at me with hatred, and then there was that cold look he gave me earlier. What does he do? I need to keep an eye on him. He jumped a little when someone put their hand on his shoulder. When he looked up, he saw Shikamaru standing next to him. As much as I agree with just sitting here and daydreaming all day, it would be too troublesome to make everyone else wait on the roof for us, Shikamaru said idly. It would be even worse if Sasuke managed to get there before us even after escaping the fangirls. Naruto replied calmly, "Okay Shika, let's go." He could relax a bit now that no one was watching him. They started at the door and walked up to the roof. Shono, Choji, Hinata, and Sakura were there when they got there. It looks like Sasuke and Shikamaru were still safe because he hadn't been able to get away from the fangirls. When Naruto realized that they might have to wait a while for Sasuke, he looked at his friends and thought about how they had changed since he first met them. Sakura seemed like a good young kunoichi. Her hair had grown out a few centimeters, and now it fell just past her shoulders when she let it down. Most of the time, though, she wore it in a ponytail. She no longer wore the gray-blue top and navy shorts. Instead, she wore a dark red dress that zipped up and hung to mid-thigh. It had slits on the sides where she could see her kunai and shuriken pouches, and she wore dark purple shin-high shinobi sandals. A simple first aid kit looked like it was strapped to her back. She no longer had the almost fangirl attitude she had when they first started training together. She was more serious now, with bouts of crazy giddiness, with an emphasis on the crazy, when she talked to herself. But since it wasn't dangerous, everyone just ignored it. She wore 35-pound weights on her arms and 40-pound weights on her legs. The resistance seal was set to level 4. Sakura's chakra reserves had grown a lot, but they were still the smallest of the group at low chunin levels. She still had perfect control over her chakra, though. As she worked on her water affinity, she reached the 3rd stage, even though it took a long time. Shino had grown a great deal. He was now the tallest of them all. Shino's clothes had changed, but not as much as Sakura's. He used to wear a dark gray jacket that covered his face except for his eyes and nose. Now he wore brown pants, blue shinobi sandals, and a lighter gray jacket without a hood that showed off his dark brown hair that was styled like an afro. He still hadn't changed how he felt. He stayed quiet, serious, and proper. Like Sakura, he had a lot more chakra, but his were only mid-chunin level, and a lot of it went to his bugs. His weights, which were each 50 pounds, and his resistance seal, which was at level 5, were both better than Sakura's. Shino had finished the first 2 stages of his training to control earth and the first stage of his training to control fire. No one knew what he was trying to do, but they could all tell he was working on something. Everyone else grew up in pretty much the same way that Hinata did. She hit puberty earlier than most of her friends and had grown a lot. While she wore the big, fluffy beige jacket to hide herself, most people couldn't tell because she used it to hide her fake stutter when someone who wasn't in their group was there. Besides the jacket, she wore blue pants that reached her shins and blue shinobi sandals. Even though her hair was now just below her chin, the 2 bangs that framed her face were longer and reached her shoulders. Hinata's reserves were about the same level as Sakura's, but Hinata's were a little higher. Just like Sakura, Hinata had started to try to change the flow of a river. She actually found it easier to learn how to control the water, but she wasn't fully proficient in it because she had to work so hard on her modified Juken. She had also raised her resistance seal to level 6, which was the highest level of any person other than him. Like everyone else, Choji had changed over time. He was still a little fat, but not too much. He wore a green t-shirt with sleeves that were longer than usual and fell to his thighs, which he wore open. For some reason, the arms had armor plates on them just below the shoulders, and he wore black shorts with the shirt. Besides that, he had bandages on his arms and lower legs that stopped at his blue shinobi sandals. If you don't count himself, Choji now had the 2nd most chakra reserves in their group. He had the most physical energy, but his spiritual energy wasn't quite right. His weights were now each 85 pounds, and he was very strong. He had finished the first 2 stages of his training with the earth element, just like Shino. However, the stones we made were much bigger than Shino's. He had only grown taller and changed his clothes, but Shikamaru hadn't changed much else. He wore a gray t-shirt, vest that was open, black pants, and blue shinobi sandals now. Despite the fact that he waterwalked almost every day by lying on his back on a pond and watching the clouds, he was still as lazy as ever. He did some exercise, but he probably would have done a lot less if he didn't have to work so hard to move. Naruto had even had to raise the level a few times. It is now at level 5. Because he walked on water, his reserves were solidly mid-chunin, even though he was only barely chunin physically. He was surprisingly good at lightning. He probably did so because he could practice while lying on his back and watching the clouds. I wonder if he can really send lightning through his shadow. Naruto thought that if he could, he would be very scary. Naruto was thinking about all of his friends who were sitting on the roof with him when he heard a noise behind him. He turned around and saw Sasuke climbing over the railing on the roof. He had just walked up the side of the academy. They were the same height now that Sasuke had grown. He had switched from his purple-blue shirt to a blue shirt with a high collar. On his back was the red and white Uchiha clan symbol. He wore white shorts and wrist warmers that covered the 55-pound weights on his arms. On his legs, he wore bandages that ended at blue shinobi sandals that covered the 60-pound weights on his legs. Naruto was the only one there with less chakra than him. His resistance seal was at level 5. He began his elemental training differently than everyone else. He focused on his secondary element. He said it was because he already knew some fire jutsu and could learn more, but he didn't know any lightning-based jutsus. Since he couldn't use Kage Bunshin, Naruto didn't want to know how hard he had worked to master the fire element after starting with lightning. Naruto saw his friends and knew he could trust them with his life and his secrets. Does anyone have anything to say? Any questions, problems with training, or anything else? Naruto asked as he looked around and saw that everyone was shaking their heads. I've just got one question. Can all of you come to my house after the academy ends on Monday? Sakura said, I can. Yes, me too, Choji said. Shono put in, agreed. Let's do it, Hinata said. A lazy voice said, troublesome, but fine. Sasuke said, no problem. After everyone agreed, Naruto said, good, I want to show you something there. The next few days went by without any problems. Naruto was only interested in the fact that Mizuki seemed to be getting tense and restless over time. When school let out for the day on Monday, Naruto took his friends to his apartment. The fact that Sakura could sense him channel chakra when he opened his door surprised him the most. He could tell that most of them were shocked that he lived alone in an apartment. Naruto, why did you channel chakra when you were opening your door? Sakura asked her. It shocked Naruto and made his eyes wide. You felt that? Did anyone else? He asked. When everyone shook their heads, he went on. I placed a locking seal on my door so that it requires my chakra to open. I'm really surprised you could sense that. You must be a sensor. Not all that surprising, I guess, considering how good your chakra control is. It got a little crowded when everyone went into his living room kitchen area. Everyone stay here, I'll be right back. He then went back to the kitchen after getting the dimension seal scroll from under his bed in his bedroom. When he got there, he took it out of the roll and pinned it to the wall behind the kitchen counter. Before he could finish the scroll, he had to make the pinholes by putting a stasis seal on the side opposite the dimension seal. Before anything else, Naruto said, you must swear on your life that you will never speak a word about what you are about to see. He said this very seriously, and the fact that he wasn't wearing a mask showed how serious he was. Sasuke spoke first. I swear. Sakura then said, I swear. Shono said, I swear. Shikamaru said, I swear, and for once, he didn't look lazy. It made Naruto feel better, and he let out a sigh. Choji said, I swear. I swear, Hinata said to end it all. Naruto sent chakra to the dimension scroll and said, good. If one of you hadn't agreed, I wouldn't have been able to do this. Naruto thought, I need to find a safe place to store this or a way to carry it around with me. He knew that his work was at risk just sitting in his apartment. There was no sign of the scroll in the dark. Everyone follow me, Naruto said as he stepped into his pocket world. He stopped after about 10 feet because he was sure he didn't hear any footsteps. When he turned around, he saw Sasuke at the door, looking around as if he were trying to find him. Naruto walked back until he was right next to his friend. He asked, what's wrong? Sasuke almost jumped when he said, Naruto. How can you see in there? Naruto said with an embarrassed grin, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot that not everyone can see in the dark. I usually have pretty good night vision but I still can't see anything, he said. Sasuke, can you make some fire with your chakra and hold it in your hand? Naruto asked me. Sasuke seemed to be thinking. He put out his hand and said, I think so. Let me try. A few seconds later, a big ball of fire appeared. It flickered for a moment, then became steady as Sasuke took control of it again. Good, Naruto said, follow me with Sasuke in the middle. Don't ask any questions until we get to the top. He then walked through the short passageway that led to the stairs. He started going up the stairs, and everyone else did the same. After about 5 minutes of climbing stairs that were broken up by landings, they finally got to Naruto's training. The stairs went up in a slightly different direction each time. When they finally got to the top, they were at the edge of a clearing. To their left and right, there were forests, and ahead, 1.5 kilometers away, there was a pond. Before Hinata could find her voice, everyone stood there in awe for a few minutes. What is this place? My personal training ground, Naruto said with a smile. When she asked what this place is, I don't think she meant just the training grounds but the place as a whole, from the moment we stepped into that scroll. Shikamaru told me. Ah, this is a pocket dimension I made. Once more, no one could say anything. How is that possible? Sakura asked in a poor voice. Fuinjutsu. This place is basically the inside of a modified storage scroll. That is the simple way to put it. You saw how big the scroll I pinned to the wall in my kitchen was. The seal formula took up that whole scroll where a normal storage scroll formula can fit on a small part of those small scrolls. You can see how the walls are just white. 8. All of them nodded. That is the limit of this pocket dimension. It is a 2-kilometer cube that has a transparency seal built into it so it basically shows the normal sky and lets sunlight in. This place produces everything else needed to support life. There is enough water. The trees keep the air clean. There is even food in the form of fish and other wildlife. Shino said, the bugs like it here. The chips are still in Choji's mouth when he finally speaks up. But, Munch, how did this place come to? Munch, B. That is the question I was waiting for and also the reason I brought you here. It actually starts quite a bit before I created this place. Before I go on, I have to warn you that if you ever mention this it will cost you your life. I'm pretty sure that it is either an A or S class secret so you can never say anything about it. Is that understood? Naruto gave them some time to think about it, and then they all agreed again. Good. What do you know about the Kyuubi? Sakura spoke first because she is a living library. It was a giant 9-tailed fox that attacked the village on October 10, 12 years ago and was killed by the Yondaime. What does that have to do with anything? You are partially correct. The Kyuubi no Kitsune is a Biju, a living chakra entity. How are you supposed to kill that? Naruto pointed out. Shino said, so the Kyuubi is still alive. Correct. Now how would the Yondaime defeat that? Shikamaru looked at him with an admiring look after a while of silence. Fuinjutsu. The Yondaime was a seal master. You look like you already know where this is going, Shika, he told me. Yes, now what could the Yondaime have sealed the Kyuubi into? Choji thought it was a shrine. Hinata said, you. Everyone except Naruto turned their heads to look at Hinata, then quickly turned their heads back to look at Naruto. Naruto was interested and asked, how did you know? The fox smiled. I can see the seal on your stomach when I activate my Byakugan. Naruto said, very good, as he lifted his shirt and used some chakra to make the seal appear on his stomach. The Kyuubi is sealed in me. Sasuke asked, so what does this mean? Nothing much other than the fact that the villagers treat me like crap. Father was a seal master and the Kyuubi cannot influence me in any way. Once more, Sakura was the first one to understand. Your father. Wait, you mean you are the Yondaime's son? Hinata was done. How is that possible, and how do you know anyway? Well, my father was a very good person. From what I know, he thought that if he wasn't willing to seal the Kyuubi into his son, then how could he ask anyone else? And I know this because Naruto stood up and changed into a man who looked exactly like him, but 15 years older and without the whisker marks. I'm seriously almost a carbon copy of him but younger. That would explain it for sure. Shino said in a monotone voice that was slightly shaking. When Sakura heard this, she asked, but why didn't we ever hear about this before? I'm not exactly sure, but I've got a question. Did any of your parents ever tell you to avoid me? Naruto asked me. She raised her hand slowly and looked guilty. My mother did. After we had been friends for a while, she started telling me you were a delinquent and a bad influence and to stay away from you. I thought as much. I think all of the people that are able to remember the Kyuubi's attack probably know that I hold the Kyuubi. But considering none of the younger people do, Gigi probably made a law about it that makes it deadly to tell anyone who doesn't already know that I hold the Kyuubi. That is why I brought you here to tell you. No one outside this place will be able to find it or ever hear or see anything that happens in here. It was nice of you to trust me, Shino said. But how did you know about the Kyuubi? I met him in my mindscape. At least that is what I call it. It is the space where my mind and the seal interact. I went there one day and walked down this long-ass sewer and found the Kyuubi stuck in this giant cage that was held shut by a seal with the kanji for seal on it. Shino said, I see. Thank you again. But what does that have to do with this place? Choji asked, waving his hand to show where he was. He had forgotten to bring chips with him. Naruto stopped and looked around for a moment. Tell me, how much energy do you think it would take to create a stable pocket dimension like this? Sakura told her, an incredible amount. Shikamaru replied at the same time, we wouldn't even try to guess. It was beyond incredible, insane would be more appropriate. When I first put the seal together I thought I would be able to create it with my own chakra, and I have more than Hokage Gigi, but I was wrong. If I had tried to do it I would be dead right now. When I first activated the seal, I did it by channeling Kyuubi's chakra. At that point this was just an empty space. Then I used another seal known as a duplication seal. Usually this seal just duplicates small things that are within very clearly marked boundaries. I marked the area within a 2-kilometer cube with chakra strings, from about 700 meters below ground to 1300 meters above. That is why we had to climb up here, Naruto said while scratching his back with shame. I kind of forgot that I would be duplicating an area that included Earth, so the door in was right at the bottom. Duplicating that area didn't use as much chakra, but it wasn't too much less, so I had to use Kyuubi's chakra again. Both times I used chakra dampening seals so no one would sense me using the Kyuubi's chakra. It is very distinctive. Hinata said, that's amazing. Shikamaru agreed and said, yes it is. But you seem to use a lot of fuinjutsu. Isn't that supposed to be one of the most complicated of the ninja arts? Naruto looked embarrassed once more. So I've been told, but it has always sort of made sense to me. I'm actually getting close to becoming a seal master. Again, everyone's eyes got really big. Sasuke asked, is there anything else we should know? Naruto thought about that for a moment, trying to decide what else he should say to his friends. Not that I can think of. But I do have one request. Shino, could you have your allies check the health of this place so I can bring anything that it might need to become a stable ecosystem and self-sustaining? Indeed, though I might need an hour or so to get an accurate assessment, Shino said. Thanks Shino. Do you guys have any more questions? Yes, they all shook their heads. For a split second, Sakura looked like she was going to say something, but she changed her mind and shook her head too. Okay. What do you think about using this place for what it was meant for while Shino makes his decision? Naruto asked, his voice full of surprise. Because Shino took an hour to finish, the other 6 were training, even though they were really just having fun. The group got together again when Shino came back to say that he was done. Naruto asked, so what's the verdict? From what I can tell, this area is healthy and will stay that way. When Shino saw Naruto getting ready to cheer, he quickly went on. However, I am relatively inexperienced. It would be better to bring my father here to examine it. Naruto was very quiet and still for a few minutes, as if he were pulling in on himself. That may be possible. However, I will have to talk to Hokage Gigi first. While I trust you and my friends completely, I do not know your father in the same way, nor do I know what his reaction will be. So unless I can get the Hokage behind me, I can't allow that. If I can, I will have Gigi call him for his opinion, Naruto said. Shino said, that makes sense. Naruto said as he started to walk back up the stairs. Thanks Shino. Okay, everyone, let's go back. We do have class tomorrow after all. I'll go first as I can see in the dark. He could see his friends following him back to the real world as he walked. While Mizuki was looking at him more and more, Naruto saw that she was getting even more fidgety over the next 3 days. If he did catch a glimpse of them, they were very smart and seemed to get more excited as the week went on. Naruto thought, he's up to something. If his growing excitement and strategic looks are any indication, it has something to do with me and the tests. Jien and I need to talk, but it will be tough to persuade him that I'm not lying or trying to avoid the test. I have to persuade him that I am smarter and more skilled than I seem. I have done a great job of leaving those things out. Now how do I get him to agree? I'd have to do something really great too. Naruto hit him on the head. Kami, you're stupid, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. He took out his dimension scroll and put it in the storage seal his father had made. To be honest, he had almost forgotten about it. After that, he went to the Hokage Tower. Like always, Naruto kicked open the door to the Hokage's office and was glad to see the old man by himself. Naruto almost yelled, "Hey Gigi, how are you today?" The old man said, "Hello Naruto. I'm doing well, how about you?" Naruto asked happily, "I'm fine. Do you have a few hours?" Before becoming very serious, it is very important. The professor was scared by Naruto's sudden change in mood, so he decided to pay attention to the boy. "I do, but it will have to wait until I'm done with work for the day, which will be in about an hour. Is that okay?" "That's fine Gigi. I shouldn't have any more guests today," the old man said, pointing to the couch. "You can wait there." Naruto didn't answer, so he walked over to the couch and sat down with his right arm over his eyes. While he was lying there, he tried hard to sense the Anbu that he was sure were in the room. By the time the Hokage looked like he was almost done, Naruto had already picked up on 3. He then opened his eyes to make sure there were really 3. The old Hokage looked up at Naruto when he was finally done and there was still some daylight left. "Okay, my boy, what did you need? First, can you send the 3 Anbu out and set up the privacy barrier?" Naruto asked the old man with a cool look on his face. Hiruzen gave Naruto a hard look and, seeing no sign of deception or danger, nodded and motioned for his guards to leave. He then made a few hand seals, which caused the walls to briefly glow blue, letting them know that no one could listen in. Naruto opened his eyes and looked for any other chakra signatures besides his and the old man's. When he didn't find any, he turned back to the old Hokage and began. "I have something to tell you, but not here," Naruto said. "Wait a second, Gigi," he waved his hand when he saw that the Hokage was about to speak. As he did when he brought his friends in, Naruto opened the dimension seal and hung it on the wall next to the door, where there were no bookcases. He then used a bit of chakra to open the door to his dimension and said, "Right in here, Gigi." Asked Naruto, "What is that?" "I'll tell you when we get to the top." "Come on, Gigi," Naruto begged. Hiruzen, on the other hand, could easily follow Naruto, even though it was dark. He and the Hokage reached ground level after a short time. After the kind grandfather left, the Kami no Shinobi stood there and gave him a blank look. "Now, my boy, what is this place?" "This is a blank pocket dimension that I made to practice on. The scroll I put on the wall in your office was made from a storage scroll that I had changed in some way. The reason I call it a dimension seal is clear." The kind old man came back, but he couldn't say a word. You made it. What kind of fuinjutsu do you know? Remember how I opened the dimension scroll?" he asked Naruto. "Yes, that seal on my hand used to hold a lot of books. There were 3 levels: beginner, intermediate, and advanced. There was also a course called The Basics of Chakra." Naruto said, "I read them all, and I changed a storage seal to make this pocket size. Then I used a large-scale duplication seal to copy most of Training Ground 42 into it. This is the perfect training ground. For the most part, it can't be found or even noticed. Nothing that happens or is made in this room, whether it's sound or chakra, can be seen from the outside." "Oh, I see," Is it still working even when you haven't turned it on like you did in my office? Hiruzen asked, changing the subject just a bit to give himself some time to think about what he had just heard. Yes, it is a pocket size. Naruto agreed. I can't turn it on and off, or all the trees and animals would die. Then why did you bring me here to ask? The old Hokage asked, still a little off. I have a problem and a strong suspicion, but I don't have any proof. I need your help to get that proof. What do you think is going on? Mizuki, the assistant teacher in my class, is making plans for something. It has to do with me and the tests, but I get the sense that it's not a plan to hurt me but to use me. His behavior has been getting worse since last Friday, even though he acts friendly and gives me calculating looks. He has never tried to hide how much he hates me. Now that he had something to think about, the Hokage said, I see. I want to set a trap to get the proof I need. What did you think of? Unless I'm very wrong, he wants me to fail or might be trying to make sure I do, Naruto said. What is the most important part of the test? As the old Hokage quickly answered, he began to get a sense of where Naruto was going. The ninjutsu portion. So Gigi, will you give me the ninjutsu portion now? That way I can fail the ninjutsu test tomorrow and do whatever I need to while still becoming a shinobi. Even though he had a feeling where Naruto was going, this still caught him off guard. Yes, that might work, as long as you have graduated and become a shinobi. I could label it as a mission and the council would not have any say in the matter, Hiruzen thought. But what if Mizuki doesn't do anything? Then I will come to your office then next day and say something along the lines that while I failed because of the bunshin I was allowed to retake the exam because I wasn't allowed to use a different bunshin jutsu during the test or something like that. To make sure that will stick I will screw up when I have to perform the bunshin during the test. That will be fine, he said. But let's get back to my office just in case anyone comes. Naruto said, okay Gigi, and the two of them started to go back down the stairs. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. I brought my friends in here on Monday and had Aburame Shino and his allies examine it to make sure the ecosystem is stable. He said he thought it was but it would be better if his father took a look, as he is still inexperienced. So could you arrange for that while swearing him to secrecy or something? I can arrange for that. Do you always keep, what did you call it? Your dimension scroll on you? Naruto looked at the old man and said, yes, I have been doing that lately. Then I will send for you when I have arranged a meeting with Shibi. Thanks Gigi. You are welcome my boy. They got back to the Hokage's office after about a minute or two, and Naruto turned off the dimension scroll before putting it back in his hand. The old Hokage sat back down in his chair and said, okay Naruto, I need you to do the Henge no Jutsu, the Kawarimi no Jutsu, and make at least 2 copies with the Bunshin no Jutsu. He did what he was told, but he started with the Bunshin. He made 2 cage bunshin without seals and thanked Kami that it was getting dark so that it would be hard to tell which ones were different. Then he changed into the old man, and it was hard for him to tell that it wasn't a normal henge. Then he finally kawarimied with the old man, switching places with him but keeping the hat. Naruto quickly used the sealing jutsu to put the Hiraishin marker on his head and mark the Hokage hat. He didn't tell the old man what he was doing. He did that for a very short time and then kawarimied with the old Hokage again. Very good. As soon as I get the results from the remainder of the test, provided you pass of course, you will become a shinobi. Naruto said, thank you, Gigi. 1. Please don't tell anyone about my skills. I worked hard to be taken lightly. 2. If something does happen, treat me the same way you would have if we had never talked. That's what he would expect, and if it doesn't happen, he might think something is wrong. Naruto then went home to sleep and study for the next day's genin exam. Okay class, Iruka-sensei said, now we will start the written part of the genin exam. Mizuki then began giving out the papers, being careful to save the last one for Naruto. Naruto looked at his test and decided to be careful. He still had to pass the rest of the test, so he briefly opened his eyes. He saw the genjutsu that was on his paper right away and broke it. With his test in order, he answered just a couple more questions than would be necessary to pass while still keeping him in the lower third of the class. With that done he discreetly looked around at the class. His friends appeared to be doing well with the exception of Shikamaru, who was asleep. Knowing his friend Sasuke would ace the test, his pride not allowing anything else. Sakura would become the kunoichi of the year. Hinata would take the third or fourth highest position. She had to at least that well or her father would be on her case. Choji would score in the middle of the class. As would Shikamaru, he would think it is too troublesome to do any better, and Shino would take somewhere between 4th and 6th place in the class. That way he would be known as a good shinobi, but not too good. The rest of the class he wasn't too sure about, while he knew some of the others like Kiba and Ino, who he hadn't included in his group because they couldn't keep their mouths shut. Ino was a gossip and Kiba was someone who couldn't help but boast. He wasn't sure how they would do. Okay class, bring your papers up and pile them in front of me, then head out to the throwing range, Iruka said. Everyone walked up to Iruka sensei and put their tests in a pile in front of him. Naruto made sure to be one of the last people to put his paper on the pile, putting it somewhere in the middle so it would be harder to change. He then did what he was told and went to the throwing range. On the way there, he decided not to hold back too much for this part of the test, but he also didn't do anything like coat his kunai and shuriken with elemental chakra. When everyone was quiet, Iruka sensei said, "This part of the test is to see how good you are with kunai and shuriken. You will throw 10 kunai and 10 shuriken at the targets, then come with me to see your score and get the weapons you threw. If you hit the dummy, you get 10 points. If you hit a pain center or one of the deadly points, you get 30 points. If you hit the head or heart, you get 40 points." Naruto got 290 points, which is one of the best scores in the class, just behind Sasuke. He got 6 head, heart shots, 1 pain center shot, and 3 random dummy shots. He could have gotten 400 points if he had wanted to. The next part of the test was taijutsu. Each student had to fight one of the 2 instructors, and if they made it through 4 minutes without getting knocked out or going outside of a ring drawn on the ground, they passed. It was funny to see how his friends fought. Iruka sensei just avoided Choji's attacks after the first one hit the ground, and when he tried to hit Hinata, she would just flow around them. Sakura gave it her all, while Mizuki couldn't hit Shino. Shikamaru caught him in his Kagane no Jutsu, saying it was too hard to fight, and then he threw the fight against Sasuke because he wasn't moving as fast as a new genin should be able to. Finally, it was Naruto's turn. He chose to follow Shino's lead by not attacking and not taking any hits either. However, Mizuki attacked him at full speed, which made things more difficult. Naruto had to lower his resistance seal from 14 to 13, which gave him a speed boost and let him avoid Mizuki for 4 minutes, which let him pass. Well done, everyone. When we're done here, we'll go back to the classroom and take the jutsu part of the test, Iruka sensei said. When everyone got back to class, they sat down in their old seats, maybe for the last time. When your name is called, go to the next room and take a test. Come on, Aburame Shino. We'll begin with you. As soon as they left, Naruto told Shikamaru and Choji not to worry about him if it looked like he had failed. He then told Hinata, Sasuke, and Sakura the same thing. Just as he was done warning them, Shino came back. Shino just said, "Akamichi Choji." Choji left the room to take his test. While he was gone, Naruto warned Shino the same thing before sitting back down and waiting for his name to be called. After about 15 minutes, he heard that from Sasuke. He got up and left the classroom, going to the small room one door down. When he opened the door, he saw Iruka sensei and Mizuki sitting behind a table with a bunch of runes on it. "Okay Naruto," he said, "perform the Henge no Jutsu, Kawarimi no Jutsu, and create at least 2 working clones with the Bunshin no Jutsu." He said, "Got you, Iruka sensei," and then he made the hand seals of the dog, the boar, and the ram. He then changed into Mizuki, and before the technique's smoke cleared completely, he quickly made the hand seals of the ox, the dog, the snake, and the boar. Iruka sensei pointed to where Naruto was supposed to be and said, "Good job, Naruto. You can now release the henge." "Hi Iruka, I'm not Naruto. My name is Mizuki," Mizuki said. "Enough already, Naruto, yell," Iruka said. After Iruka said that, he turned around and saw Mizuki laughing so hard that he fell to the ground, breaking the henge. He didn't wait for either of his teachers to say anything before getting up and moving back to where he was. As he passed Mizuki, he saw a frown on his face that quickly disappeared behind a friendly mask. "Good job, Naruto," Iruka exclaimed, shocked that Naruto had replaced him with another chakra user, which was thought to be very hard to do. "Please do the Bunshin no Jutsu." He could make a couple of clones, but he tended to overdo it unless he was making more than 50. Since he needed to fail this part of the exam, he did exactly that. He seriously overloaded the jutsu. He made the ram, snake, and tiger hand seals while channeling enough chakra to make a shadow clone and focusing on making 2 clones. It looked even worse than he thought it would. His clones had white skin and were shaking on the ground, looking almost dead. Iruka-sensei yelled, "Fail," right as he looked at him with a sad face. "But he did create 2 clones, we could always let him pass this time considering he did already fail 2 advancement tests," Mizuki said. After a moment of thought, Iruka-sensei became sad and said, "Mizuki, you know we can't do that. Even if he did make 2 copies, they are useless, while everyone else made 2 copies that work. I can't get past him." Naruto walked slowly out to the courtyard and sat on a swing to watch the happy graduates and their families. He heard comments like, "Look, that kid failed. He's the only one that did. And, good, he shouldn't become a shinobi." And quit listening because he didn't want to hear it anymore. He heard someone call his name as he walked down the street away from the academy. He turned around and saw Mizuki walking toward him. "Got you," he thought, putting on his best idiot face. "Mizuki-sensei," he asked. "Don't let it bother you. In fact, Iruka is very worried about you. He used to act a lot like you, pulling jokes on people to get attention. He likely sees himself in you and wants you to change for the better. Try to picture how he feels as someone else who doesn't have parents." Mizuki was expecting Naruto to say something, so he said, "But I wish I had graduated." "Then I'll tell you a secret," Mizuki said. "There is a special makeup practical exam. An important scroll with a few jutsu is set up in the Hokage's office. It says, 'The Forbidden Scroll of Seals,' on it. You need to sneak into his office, take the scroll, and then hide with it while you learn 1 jutsu. You will pass and become a genin if you have learned a jutsu by the time I find you. Are you going to do it?" He almost yelled, "Of course," while thinking, hook, line, and sinker. At least he sets high goals, like getting the Forbidden Scroll of Seals. Since I have to catch him in the act, I might as well steal the scroll and read it. Chu-san said it had a stronger Bunshin technique after all, and maybe if I'm lucky it will have some of the first's techniques. Too bad Konoha has never had ice users, so there is no way to get any ice-based jutsu. After making sure of that, Naruto went to get ready. As it turned out, it was ridiculously easy to steal the Forbidden Scroll. It was just sitting on the bottom shelf of one of the bookcases in his office. He probably would have gotten away with it if the old man hadn't caught him as he was leaving with the scroll in his arms. The Hokage began to say, "Naruto, what are you doing?" But failed because Naruto quickly put up a sleep seal and the Hokage passed out. Knowing the old man, that should only last 5 minutes or so, Naruto thought. He will likely tell all the Chunin and Junin in the village to look for me since he saw me run off with the scroll. Mizuki probably does want that. At least I think she does. After all, the demon brat is the best person to blame. Ran into the woods and found a shack in a small clearing near Training Ground 12. He thought it would be perfect and set up his camp there. When he opened the scroll, the first jutsu he saw was the Cage Bunshin. This made him think of a plan. He got back on his feet, made the cross-shaped seal, and made 5 Cage Bunshin. Spread out and make it look like we were training hard. Naruto went back to the scroll when Cage Bunshin got to work. That which was second was called Chishio Bunshin no Jutsu. Let's see if this is what Tu-san meant to say. No Jutsu for Chishio Bunshin. The Chishio Bunshin, blood clone, is like the Cage Bunshin but lasts longer. It's not just made of chakra, it's made of both blood and chakra. Because it is made of blood, it can regenerate a small amount of the chakra it uses. The main problem with this clone is that it needs 2 gallons of blood and 60% of the user's chakra to be made. It's not possible to make more than one at a time because of this. The user can heal and make Kage Bunshin, but the blood clone can do everything the user can. Wonderful. Now I have what I need. The large amount of blood is bad, but I might be able to fix that. What will happen next? Once Naruto learned Shishio Bunshin, he learned a few other jutsu that he didn't need until he learned Mokuden. These were Moku Bunshin no Jutsu, a wood clone technique. Mokuden Haijutsu. Jukai Koton would release secret technique. Navity of a world of trees where the user forces trees to grow on ant surface they want. Mokuden. Shichuka no Jutsu would release. Four-pillar house technique, a technique that forces roots to grow at an accelerated rate and form a house with the exact shape depending on the user's memories. Mokuden. Daijirin no Jutsu would release. Great forest technique, which temporarily turns the user's arm into plant matter that grows into spikes that attack an enemy. Mokuden. Mokusatsu Shibari no Jutsu would release. Smothering binding technique, a technique that makes trees that grow either form the ground or arm constrict around an opponent, and Mokuden. Mokujoheiki would release. Wood locking wall, a defensive technique that causes roots to grow from the ground and interlock to form a half-dome to protect the user. He didn't really find any other jutsus that he liked or could use after he found the Mokuden one. Another one he would have liked was the Kokuonyo no Jutsu, or Bringer of Darkness technique, but since it was a genjutsu, he could never use it. When he was done reading the scroll, he rolled it back up and saw that even though the area looked like he had been training, he hadn't been. Naruto decided to properly kill his orange monsters by covering them in dirt and tearing up their clothes. When he finally looked like he had trained hard, he got rid of the clones and waited for Mizuki to show up. He didn't think Iruka-sensei would show up first, though. He doesn't belong here. Mizuki was probably too stupid to find me. What the heck? He must have followed Iruka-sensei because he always finds me and drags me to class. I have to wait for Mizuki to show up before I can do anything. Naruto cut Iruka-sensei off before he could say, "I found you." The Naruto said, "I found you, Iruka-sensei." Iruka told Naruto, "No, I found you, you idiot," before she saw how badly he was hurt. "What were you doing here?" "I was learning this incredible jutsu. Watch, I'll show it to you and you can let me graduate." She looked at him for a second, not sure what to think about how he was acting. It wasn't the way someone who had done something wrong would act. Then he saw the scroll lying on the ground behind his peer. "Naruto, where did you get that scroll?" "Oh, this, Mizuki told me about it. He said if I learn one jutsu from here I will pass the practical makeup exam." Naruto told me. Just as he was finishing, he heard things flying at him. He felt himself being pushed out of the way by a group of kunai just as he was about to dodge. When he looked back up, he saw Iruka-sensei with a few sticking out of him. The rest were stuck in the old shack wall that he was leaning against. Mizuki turned to Naruto and said, "Nice job finding that idiot, Iruka. Now give me the scroll, Naruto." Naruto decided to keep playing along for a little while longer. He quickly looked back and forth between Mizuki and Iruka-sensei, acting like he wasn't sure what was going on. What's going on here? Naruto caught Iruka's eye. "Naruto, whatever happens, don't give Mizuki that scroll. That is a forbidden scroll with information on dangerous jutsu in it. Mizuki just used you to take the blame for stealing it for him. Naruto, there's no point in you having that scroll, it's not like you could do anything with it." "But I tell you the truth anyway," said Mizuki. It was Iruka who yelled, "No, don't," and cut Mizuki off. When Mizuki saw Naruto nod, he asked, "You know how the demon fox was killed 12 years ago? Ever since that day, there has been a law that has been in effect for this village." The Naruto asked, "A law? Thoughts? I've always been interested in why nobody my age knew or talked about it. This is most likely the reason." Mizuki went on, "A law that you were never to learn about." Naruto stayed quiet for a little longer because he thought it was almost time to set off his trap. "Not me. What is this law?" Mizuki, who had been smirking a little, now laughed out loud and had a grin that looked almost crazy on his face. "The law forbids anyone from telling you the fact that you are in fact the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Naruto didn't have to act surprised when he said, "What?" What Mizuki just said was too silly to believe. Iruka yelled, "Stop it. You were the Kyuubi no Kitsune that killed Iruka's parents and destroyed the village. You were sealed up by the Yondaime you seem to admire so much." Iruka yelled again, "Stop it. Everyone in the village lied to you. Isn't it strange that everyone hates you and no one else?" Naruto had to hunch over to keep from laughing. "Iruka is the same, he hates you too." During Mizuki's rant, Iruka thought back to what the Hokage had told him about Naruto when he first joined his class. He has never known a parent's love and is hated by all the villagers. So he makes trouble and plays jokes on people to get attention, anything to be noticed, so people know he exists. He may look happy, but he is really in a lot of pain. Mizuki kept saying in that crazy voice, "Nobody will ever love you," as he took out one of the huge shurikens from behind him and got ready to throw it. "That scroll was used to seal you up." The shuriken was thrown by Mizuki. Naruto didn't notice until it was too late because he was still hunched over. Or at least it would have been too late if Iruka-sensei hadn't stuck out his body to protect him. "I'm sorry Naruto," Iruka said as blood ran down his mouth. "I could have been there for you more. You were just like I was after I lost my parents. I became the prankster of my class all to get attention. If only I had been able to see through my pain earlier. Just remember, you are one of my precious students, you are Uzumaki Naruto." Naruto thanked Iruka-sensei and came out from behind him. He was glad that someone from outside his small group saw him for who he was. Enough of this farce Mizuki. Mizuki was thrown off balance when the boy he was after changed so much that he could only gape. "What? Enough with this clown show," Naruto said, taking off the last of his mask. "Have you ever heard of the term Jinchuriki, power of the human sacrifice? It is what humans with Biju sealed within them are called. Do you really think that Konoha would still exist if I was the Kyuubi? Wah, how is this? Despite the fact that this whole thing was a trap to see what you would do, I think you broke a law that will probably cost you your life," Naruto said firmly. Mizuki finally got his balance and asked, "How do you figure that?" "I will just kill you both and take the scroll. It isn't like some academy failure like you can do anything to a chunin like me," Naruto asked as he made the cross-shaped hand seal that only the Kage Bunshin could make. "You think you can take me? Then what about 1,000 of me? Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, mass shadow clone technique." All of a sudden, smoke filled the whole clearing. When the fog lifted, Narutos were everywhere. Everything. Tree trunks, the ground, the sides of trees, and more. He told his clones to take care of Mizuki and said, "Please take care of the trash." Naruto walked back over to Iruka, and the look on his face made it hard not to laugh. "Are you all right, Iruka-sensei?" Iruka began to say, "Yes, I'm all right." He then stood up and grimaced in pain. "Okay, maybe not so much. But what did you mean this was all a trap?" "Ah, I noticed Mizuki acting funny and told Gigi about it. Since I noticed that he was sending me calculating looks and he was getting more excited and jumpy as the exam got closer, we realized that whatever he was planning probably had something to do with me. We decided that I would fake failing the ninjutsu part of the exam. I took that part early so I could be considered a ninja on a mission. Then here we are." Naruto returned to his clones. "Enough. He's good and pulverized by now. We don't want to go too far after all." Iruka said in a nice voice, "I see. Come here and close your eyes." The way she seemed to accept it made Naruto decide. He walked up to Iruka and closed his eyes. Naruto felt something rubbing against his forehead after a short time. "You can open your eyes now." When Naruto did that, he saw right away that Iruka wasn't wearing his Hitaiate. He put his hand to his forehead and felt the metal plate that had the Konoha symbol carved into it. He yelled, "Thank you, Iruka-sensei. I know I would have gotten one when I saw Gigi, but this is so much better," and ran to give Iruka a hug. Iruka patted Naruto on the back and said, "Ouch. Pain. Please let go, I'm still hurt here. I know you said this was a trap for Mizuki, but you did end up saving my life. Come see me at the academy tomorrow. There's something that I want to teach you." "Awesome. What is it?" "A jutsu. One that I created myself." "Really? You'll really teach me a jutsu?" Thanks Iruka-sensei. Iruka pointed to Mizuki's prone form and said, "Thank you. Let's go see the Hokage and have one of your clones bring that with us." Naruto helped Iruka get out of the forest and dragged Mizuki behind him as they went to the Hokage tower. It was already crowded in the old man's office when he got there. A group of Junin had already been there. "I see it went well, Naruto. Ibiki, please take care of Mizuki. Someone else, please take Iruka-kun to the hospital to get fixed up. Everyone else is free to go," the old Hokage said, motioning for Naruto to sit down in front of his desk. As told, the old man spoke up again after sitting down. "You did a good job, Naruto. Now tell me, how did you know?" Naruto asked. "You mean the Kyuubi?" "Yes, I do. Did someone tell you about it? If they did, they signed their life away." "No one told me." "What was the law Mizuki mentioned about?" "When word spread that you were the container of the Kyuubi, I made a law that made it punishable by death to mention that fact to anyone who didn't already know, with the exception of myself and you." "Now how did you know about the Kyuubi?" Naruto decided to take it easy, so he pulled his shirt up to show his stomach before focusing on some chakra. "One of the books I received from the seal on the back of my hand had a section about the Biju and Jinchuriki. When I noticed this seal, as well as seeing a giant nine-tailed fox trapped in a cage kept shut with a little piece of paper with the kanji for seal in my dreams, I put together the pieces. I realized that since a Biju cannot be killed, it had to be sealed. Then the fact that my birthday was the day the Kyuubi attacked, I realized that I had to be a Jinchuriki." "I see. So what is your opinion on this?" Naruto told the old man. "What happened happened. I'm not going to waste my life worrying about things that can't be changed." He then took a chance to see what the old man would say. "Who are my parents, Gigi?" Hiruzen thought about it for a second. "I can't tell you that, yet. I will in a few years, but it is dangerous for you to know right now." "Thanks for not lying to me, for not just telling me that you don't know." "You're welcome, Naruto. Just so you know, you will be paid for a B rank mission for your effort. Anyway, on to other matters. Since you already have a Hittite, I don't have to worry about that. Your orientation as a genin will be in 3 days at 8 a.m. You will receive your team assignment when you get there. Before then, you need to have a picture taken for your shinobi registration and bring it to me. Is there anything else you need?" he continued after Naruto's head shake. "Then I will see you when you bring me that picture." After saying that, Naruto left, leaving an old man who was sighing with relief. He was just happy Naruto had handled it so well. Truth be told, he shouldn't have been that surprised after the day before, he thought.
So this was it for today. I will meet you in the next part. Till then, we weeb offline.